Hello, good morning everyone, and a very warm welcome to Silverstone for the 23rd running of the Walter Hayes Trophy, an iconic event on the British motorsport calendar, the greatest Formula Ford 1600 event in the world. My name's Ian Soman, and Josh Barrett will be alongside me to bring you through all the Formula Ford 1600 action during the course of the weekend on the Silverstone National Circuit, the 1.6 mile layout that has been used for the Walter Hayes Trophy for the majority of its life. And as I say, the 23rd running this weekend, that is the way the weather looks. It's very Walter Hayes Trophy weather, isn't it? It's been raining all morning. It's really been very miserable here at Silverstone. It's forecast to maybe be slightly less miserable later on during the afternoon, but we'll see exactly how wet it is for the 4 Formula Ford heats that we have today, plus the Janet CESAR and Carl Hamer pre-finals as well. 6 Formula Ford races that we are going to have for you during the course of the day. Josh Barrett, as I say, is alongside myself, Ian Soman. Josh, good to have you with us, and looking forward to a great weekend of Formula Ford action.
Absolutely, and it's always a highlight, just not of the Formula Ford calendar, but of the British motorsport season. And we've got a good grid of cars, healthy 90 car entry in what is a difficult season, I think it's fair to say, for Formula Ford racing. So it's great to have the biggest collection of Formula Ford 1600 cars here this weekend, and 4 competitive heats we look forward to today in what are very tricky conditions. You can see the circuit there, lots of spray is going to be a big element of the way this is going to go, and that means already the race control have told us the first race will start behind the safety car for safety conditions. Speaking to some of the drivers after qualifying, they're saying it was very, very tricky out. They could see standing water offline, but therefore if you had a 2x2 standing start, people would have to go offline, and therefore it has been deemed, so we can get this race meeting underway, a safety car start necessary, which is a good idea, I think, at this point of the weekend.
Absolutely, and you can see a good crowd already building in the BRDC grandstand at Brooklands Corner. That'll be packed out, I'm sure, during the course of the weekend, as it always is, to enjoy the Formula Ford action. The timetable, just to take you through what we've got today, is we've got the first heat. That's going to come up very shortly before the lunch break. Then we're going to have a slightly foreshortened lunch break, I would think, because we're a little bit behind schedule after various dramas during the course of the morning. We'll have 3 more heats back-to-back after lunch, and then we'll have another short break before we move on to the Janet CESAR Memorial pre-final and the Carl Hamer Trophy pre-final as well. They will be underway at around about 10 to 3 this afternoon, but we've got the 4 heats to go before then, as I say. Reminder that last year's winner was Joey Foster, but there we can see the cars in the assembly area ahead of the first race of the weekend, and it's Luke Cooper. Now, Luke was provisionally on pole position, but he's been knocked back to second place. He had a time disallowed after qualifying this morning. He was one of 3 drivers to have 1 lap disallowed, the others being Felix Fischer, the man who beat him to the Coombe Championship this season, and also the 42 car as well. That was Hugh Esterton, brother of the 2021 winner Max Esterton. There we can see the number 64 car. That is Logan Paxer, the Canadian driver, who I can see has already got some support from the viewers online from Canada. There is another of the Swift Cooper racing cars, teammate to Luke Cooper. That's Sam Street, who's gone very well this season, increasingly well as the season went on, and had a strong Formula Ford festival a couple of weekends ago as well. There you can see 18, Spencer Shinner, who's done some karting, not a lot of car racing though. He's in the Oldfield Motorsport Van Diemen JL13.
Yeah, he's done a few historic Formula Ford races, so this is going to be a jump into a very different car, talking to people who have done historic racing. The modern cars, much stiffer and take quite a bit to get used to, but as he's done lots of karting before that, he should be fairly good. He was in the top 10, so that was a good first effort in his first timed session in that type of car, particularly in what were tricky conditions earlier on.
There's Drew Cameron. He's in the BM Racing Medina Mark II, so he is going to go from 11th position on the grid. Behind him is Ed Thurston in a Van Diemen RF92, and Ed, Josh, is someone who we more usually associate with historic racing.
Absolutely, this is kind of a historic car, an RF92. He won the Cole Harmer Trophy back in 2018 for 1970s cars. Basically, we've got a more modern car, but still one that is 30 years old. And we've got a really big selection of late 80s, early 90s cars here this weekend, which will be contesting the Janet CESAR Trophy later on in the weekend, but they also can take part in the main races. And of course, that's what Formula Ford 1600, sort of 15 years ago, 91, 92 cars were very much dominating the scene.
There's Mike Gardner in the Crosley 35F, one of the older cars on the grid this weekend, and one that's even older behind him. That's 83, Sam Mitchell. I think he had some dramas in qualifying, did he not?
He caused the first red flag of the day, did Sam Mitchell, which I think he was a little bit frustrated by a big patch of water on the exit of Woodcote, and I watched a bit of qualifying from Woodcote. The cars are twitching and sliding through Woodcote. A corner normally, particularly in these cars, would be easy flat out. So it shows you how tricky these conditions are. I think there's a few cars missing towards the back of the grid, people opting not to run in this race in the older cars because of the risk, I think, that is involved in these early races.
Yeah, because they do get more racing during the course of the weekend with those Janet CESAR and Carl Hamer races as well. That is Jack Butterworth in the Lola T100, and the final car on the grid is Murray Shepherd in Medina, a relatively modern car, the low-cost champion from a couple of years ago. He's been trying to get that car out during the course of the season.
Well, he was at the festival a couple of weeks ago and crashed in qualifying, and we didn't see much of him since then. It knocked a corner off the car. He got out in the last chance race, but halfway through the race, which wasn't great. And obviously had problems earlier on today as well, not setting a lap time in qualifying. So for Murray Shepherd, it's been a problematic end to the season. I think he did a few national races at the beginning of the year. Or last season, so he has had a bit of run in this car, but more recently he's been doing historic racing since winning the low-cost championship back in 2020.
Yeah, low-cost championship run by 750 Motor Club, of course. Now, the track you can see is very wet, which partly explains why we're going to have this safety car start for the first heat of the weekend. Just to explain the format for you briefly, the top 13 from each of the 4 heats will go directly through to the semi-finals tomorrow morning. Positions 14 to 18 in each of the heats, they will go into the last chance race, and everybody else, as the rain's blowing sideways there across the grandstand, everyone else will go into the progression race, which is first thing Monday morning, Sunday morning, 24 hours out later than I originally thought. It's first thing tomorrow morning, so early breakfast for everyone. First race tomorrow at 9 o'clock, the progression race. It'll be fascinating to see if there's any star names in that maybe hit problems in the heats today, Josh. Yeah,
that's right. It tends to be the case, doesn't it? We get one or two drivers. Remember Mike Epps won that race last season. Who had a sort of one-off Formula Ford out. And we haven't got too many of those sort of names from other disciplines of racing this weekend, but we have got sort of a few drivers coming back to Formula Ford who were sort of stars 5, 10, 15 years ago, which is good to see. We've got a former Team USA scholarship alumni, Jonathan Kotick. He's out in one of the later heats, for example, who was here, I think, 6 years ago. Sort of as one example of somebody coming back to Formula Ford to do this event because it's one they want to win.
A few obvious absentees. Andy Milne on the comments on the live stream points out there's no Niall Murray, Jordan Dempson or Jamie Sharp, who all starred at the Formula Ford Festival 2 weeks ago, but it is still a very strong field, and it's good to see that we've got viewers from across the world. We've got Michael watching in Australia at Bathurst. We've got people cheering on Team USA and Team Canada as well. And we'll hear during the day from the Team USA scholarship drivers as well. So the 1 minute board has gone out, so we'll look ahead now to the first heat of the weekend for the Walt Hayes Trophy. So very shortly the cars will be released out onto the circuit then, behind the safety car. I can tell you for this one that on pole position it is going to be Michael Moyers, the 2-time champion from 2017 and 2018. There he is in the bright orange Medina Mark II that's run by Simon Hatfield Motorsport. Besides him on the grid is going to be Luke Cooper in the Swift SC20. Then lining up third on the grid, that's going to be Hugh Esterson in the Ray for Ammonite Motorsport. Then Samuel Harrison in the Furman run by Don Hardman Automotive. Felix Fisher, the Castle Coombe champion in the Ray, will be on the inside of row 3, besides the first of the Canadians we see this weekend, Logan Paxson in the Ray GR15. Former USA scholarship driver Jonathan Kotick returns in the Van Diemen LA10 for Dolan Motorsport on the inside of row 4. Besides him is the first of the Janet CESAR eligible cars, Sam Street in the Swift SC92F, an excellent 8th place overall. It's John Svensson from the continent in his Ray for JRT, and Spencer Shinner in the Van Diemen JL13, and this, we understand, is counting as the first lap of the race, by the way. So behind Spencer Shinner we have Drew Cameron in the Medina, Alex Ames in the Van Diemen, Ed Thurston in his Van Diemen RF92, Patrick McKenna, the Irish driver, in a 99 Van Diemen, Mike Gardner in the Crosley, Andrew Pryke in a Van Diemen RF04, then Sam Mitchell, Neil Hunt, Dan Fox, Westy Mitchell, Gerhard Hausschreiter, Jack Butterworth and Murray Shepherd to round out what should be a 23-car field. I think we had 90 cars in all qualifying for the Walter Hayes Trophy. A little bit down on last year, but with everything going on in the world and the economy in particular, possibly not too surprising, and still comfortably more cars than we had at the Formula Ford Festival a couple of weeks ago. So first lap of racing is behind the safety car, Josh.
And that festival wasn't lacking competitiveness, so I'm sure the Walter Hayes Trophy won't, particularly if we get some better weather tomorrow. It should be all good for the racing, and an intriguing race I think in prospect here, because the key thing is not going off. I think in this first heat you want to qualify in a good position, because you don't want to qualify at the just qualify at the sort of the back as a front runner, but you do want to survive this heat. We've seen a number of drivers, quick, experienced Formula 4 drivers, having offs in their heats. It doesn't look like the safety car is going to go in immediately, so what was an 8-lap race is now becoming quite limited to how many racing laps we will get. All good for Michael Moyes, though. As you said, a double winner of the Walter Hayes Trophy back in 2017 and 2018. And then he said he was going to stop racing long after that, didn't he? And then he's come back, but with a different team, with Simon Hadfield Motorsport, who are more known to be historic preparers, very good, one of the top historic preparers in the country, Simon Hadfield Motorsport. But they've got a couple of new cars. There's a Van Diemen here, and some drivers I don't think have realised we're going to get another safety car lap, and that very nearly went wrong. I think we were okay. But yeah, this Medina is sort of their main car, because the Medina's been a top car. It's been successful, particularly at the Formula Ford Festival. I'm not sure if we had a Medina win here at the Hayes before.
I've got a feeling we did, didn't we, a few years ago? It was, no, we didn't. Yes, we did. Ollie White, 2020. Of course we did.
Drew Cameron for the pit lane, very slowly. I don't know if he was involved in that near miss, but the driver who qualified 11th in another Medina, the BM Racing Run car, who are the traditional preparers of those types of car. But for Drew Cameron, regular historic racer in Formula 4 2000s, but he's been racing this car over the last few seasons. Looks like he may not take the start.
Okay, looking at some comments, Andy Kitson's watching. He said he's seen scores of great Formula Ford races at Silverstone from the late 1960s onwards. Here's to more this weekend, but I'm sure we're going to have some. There's some support already for Jeremy Fairbairn, although he's not even in this race, so that's a little bit early.
See, this is important for Sam Harrison, who's good to make a point about. Qualified 4th, historic Formula 3 champion this year in 1960s cars, Formula 4 champion before that, and he's qualified really well in 4th. He had a misfire at the Formula Ford Festival which ruled him out. But we'll get racing underway though, so it's going to be 6 laps with a bit of luck after this. So we'll go into the race on lap 3 with a safety car start. So that means Michael Moyles is able to control the pace now, Ian, before the green flag will wave just past us out of Woodcote.
Of course, the problem here is this probably means it's going to be the slowest heat, unless there's other heats that also get safety car interruptions, which does affect the qualifying positions or the grid positions for the semi-finals tomorrow. Fastest of the heats gets pole for semi-1 and so on. But the safety car was pulled in, the green flags are waved, and the Walter Hayes Trophy is properly underway now on lap 3 of the race then. So it's Michael Moyes leading the way then as they head down to Copse Corner for the first time. It's Sam Harrison pulling to the inside line. Can he make a move there on anyone? No, he can't. So it's Moyes leading from Luke Cooper in 2nd place, and in 3rd place it's Hugh Esterson as they all go through Copse for the first time.
Big slide for Luke Cooper as he came out of Copse Corner right in the spray of Michael Moyes. You can't see much if you're behind someone, so Luke Cooper keen to pull out up alongside into Maggots and Beckett's, but couldn't quite make that work. So it is Moyes that still leads. Yeah, various lines being utilised. But yeah, Sam Harrison, he was still challenging Hugh Esterson. So this is a really good effort in the 2nd of the Furmans. Of course, Joey Foster winning this event last year in the sister car, and Harrison is still right in the slipstream of Hugh Esterson, the American out of the US F1600 Championship, older brother of Max, former winner of this event. And a big slide he has as they turn in towards Brooklands Corner. Very dicey conditions up front here.
Yeah, gaps starting to build a little bit further back down the field. These are the kind of conditions which can sort out the real top drivers out there. Sam Harrison there up on the inside of Hugh Esterson through Lufford, but there's yellow flags there, and he's going to have to try and back out of that thing. Felix Fischer in 5th place involved in that as well. Coming through to the end of the first flying lap of the race then, and it is Michael Moyers that leads at the end of lap 3. Luke Cooper 2nd, Hugh Esterson 3rd, Felix Fischer 4th, and Sam Harrison 5th, with Jonathan Kotick 6th over the line.
So that tighter line out of Luffield didn't work for Sam Harrison. He got all sideways. We did see a yellow flag there for some reason, unsure why really, but Felix Fischer seems to have found himself up into 4th spot, and behind Jonathan Kotick was trying to get himself ahead of Logan Paxcut, but the leaders is still Michael Moyers on lap 4, Luke Cooper going with him, and he really sideways does Cooper as they went out of Beckett's. There is the change confirmed. Felix Fischer ahead of Sam Harrison, who is using different lines, but maybe not quite working out how he has hoped with that loss of a position.
Right, Cooper pulling to the left-hand side of the circuit, but he can't live with Michael Moyers in a straight line, can he? Down the Wellington Straight, into Brooklands they come. Top 2 getting away a little bit here from Hugh Esterson in 3rd, Felix Fischer in 4th. Fischer, who was the Coombe champion this year, was at the festival but didn't really star. And then Sam Harrison in 5th. Bit of a gap back to Kotick then in 6th position. We're going to have 4 more laps to go at the end of this one. Top 2 getting away a little bit from this scrap for 3rd, headed by Esterson. Up to the line they come to complete another lap.
The only driver who didn't start, by the way, was Wesley Mitchell, who in his rebuilt car didn't fancy these conditions. Everybody else has started. We had 22 make the start, of course, through Cameron Pittick, so we're down to 21. And there is Moyers leading by 0.47 of a second, not really getting away from Luke Cooper. A bigger gap developing back to Hugh Esterson there in 3rd. I think the real reason Luke Cooper's pulling out of the toe is to get out of the spray, so you can see where the corner is that is coming up. The battle for 3rd, though, very good between the Ammonite Ray of Hugh Esterson, the TM Ray there, number 7, Felix Fischer, then 271, the John Hardman Furman, and not far behind them is the American Jonathan Kotick and the Canadian.
Drivers waving there. Have they seen yellow flags? Well, we've got safety car boards are out, so we couldn't see the safety car signs ourselves, but the drivers had spotted them. Felix Fischer was waving animatedly, and do we know why that might be?
Everybody made lap 4, so obviously something's happened at the start of lap 5.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on what might have gone on there. So we are on to the, or towards the end now of the 5th lap race. By the way, the blue line you can see on the timing tower on the screen, that is basically splitting the qualifiers for the semi-finals from those that go through to the last chance race. So at the moment, Paddy McKenna is the last of the drivers to go automatically through to the semi-finals. Mike Gardner in the Crosley has to go through the last chance race as things stand. So yellow flags and safety car boards all around the circuit, but we're not actually sure why that is in terms of whether there's an incident on circuit.
Everyone showing is still running, so that is very strange. So we don't think any cars have gone missing. Whether this is to do with track conditions, the officials have seen what it's like in race conditions. They're not happy with the spray, or whether they're. I don't really know what's happened, basically.
No. So there is the safety car,
and the safety car is coming in this lap. So this is. I imagine something small happened that they thought their safety car was needed for. Then that sorted itself, but it was too late by then.
Yeah.
But
it does happen sometimes. Incidents manage to clear themselves, don't they? And as a result of that, you end up with a phantom safety car, effectively. So that's going to be 3 laps of safety car running out of 8. We're going to have safety car lights are out, as you can see now, as we thought they would be. 2 more laps of racing at the end of this. A very disjointed opening to the 2023 Walter Hayes Trophy. A reminder that the winner of this race gets to receive the Barry Mason Trophy. Always open to the winner of Heat 1 of the Walter Hayes Trophy, named after Barry, who was a lifelong Silverstone enthusiast, a regular at Silverstone, and well known to those at the track as Budge. And for the last several years, the trophy's been presented to the Heat 1 winners, and 3 times that's been Jordan Dempsey, who's not here this weekend. I think we're going to therefore get a new winner of this particular award as the race is going to get back underway. Michael Moyers in the orange Medina, it is that leads. Luke Cooper in the red and white Swift in second. He's got right behind him, though, Hugh Esterson in the Ammonite Racing red and white Ray. So green flags go on, green flags wave, and the race gets back underway. That's a good restart for Michael Moyers, not so much for Luke Cooper, who's being pressured here by Hugh Esterson as they go down into Copse for the second time. Felix Fischer there in 4th place. And then behind him, I think it is still Sam Harrison in 5th, but a good restart that for Michael Moyers.
I suspect people that aren't called Michael Moyers are going to be very damp after this race, because particularly we had a great shot there from the Alpha Live team, who are doing some great work in very tricky conditions, of Hugh Esterson absolutely being given a shower from Luke Cooper as the spray came out off the back of his rear tyres coming out of Cops corner there, but Hugh Esselstyn undeterred, still challenging. There's a car that's run a little bit wide there at Beckett's, but got away with it. Are we going to see any challenges here down towards Brooklands? I don't think we are. I think the driver's taking that similar mindset of making sure you survive this race, try and gain a position if you can, but otherwise make it to the end. And for Michael Moyers, he turns his way with lots of understeer through Laffield corner, and the grip here tends to be found on this wide line, but it's so risky because if you run over the white line, there's grass and there's gravel that will cause you a much larger issue. But I think on this particular time, everybody's got through Laffield okay. They've got one lap to go as they come out of Woodgate.
Yeah, worth mentioning, Murray Shepherd's made his way from the back of the field up to 16th position, but not quite in a qualifying position there. So start of the final lap, Michael Moyers has done another best lap of the race now, 1:12.884, well off that record of course, probably 12 seconds off what's a really good Formula Ford lap time around here in these conditions. But he's still leading, Luke Cooper second, and it's still Hugh Esselstyn in third. His brother the winner on the road last year, but lost out in the end after he was penalised. Joey Foster getting his fourth win last year. And there in the Furman is Sam Harrison, different line at Beckett's to everyone else. But it's not really doing him any harm or good, really. He's still there in fifth place as they head up the straight.
Yeah, worth a try, isn't it? You're not really going to lose too much. Felix Fischer is putting a big challenge on. Or is he just trying to see where he's going for the corner? It's hard to tell. He was having a look to the inside of Hugh Esselstyn. But this first group very close together, considering how tricky the conditions are. I know he had a few racing laps, but very impressive stuff. But for Michael Moyers, it looks like he's going to take what I think will be his first win in this car.
Yeah, he was racing it here a month ago in the National Formula Ford 1600 rounds, but he comes across the line to win Heat 1 and the Barry Mason Trophy. So the WHT Trophy properly underway now. Luke Cooper takes second, Hugh Esselstyn is third, Felix Fischer fourth, Samuel Harrison fifth, Jonathan Kotic is sixth. He does the best lap of the race on the final lap. Seventh goes the way of Logan Paxer. Eighth is Sam Street in his class-winning Swift SC92F. John Svensson is ninth, Alex Ames is 10th. Then it's the car of Spencer Shinner 11th, Edward Thurston 12th, Patrick McKenna is the final of the qualifiers in 13th position. Mike Garner was about 4.5 seconds behind him, so he was not really close to making it into the semi-finals directly. Murray Shepherd 15th in the end, again another position from Neil Hunt on the final lap of the race. Sam Mitchell, Dan Fox, Andrew Pryke and Jack Butterworth, the remaining cars inside the top 20 at the end of the first heat of the 2023 Walter Hayes Trophy. So Michael Moyers will be on the front row, we know that, for one of the semi-finals tomorrow, and Luke Cooper will be on the second row. Let's take a look at the results then. At the end of 8 laps of racing, although 3 of them were behind the safety car, it was a win for Michael Moyers, and he finished just about 0.7 of a second clear in the end of Luke Cooper. So it's Medina from Swift. Ray of Hugh Esselstyn was third for the first of the overseas drivers. In fourth place was Felix Fischer in the Ray. Fifth was Sam Harrison in the Furman. And then Jonathan Kotic, the second of the Americans, was in sixth. Logan Paxer, the Canadian driver, was seventh, ahead of Sam Street. A great drive from that in the Swift SC92F, but they do go well in the wet. Ninth was number 35, that was John Svensson even, and Alex Ames rounds out the top 10, ahead of Spencer Shinner and Ed Thurston. A bit further back, Murray Shepherd, Neil Hunt, Sam Mitchell, Dan Fox, Andrew Pryke, Jack Butterworth and Gerhard Hauschwaiter, and Drew Cameron in the end. I don't think he did make it to the start. No, he didn't. So Drew Cameron, a non-starter for that race in the end. So that brings the first heat to a conclusion. Let's head outside to the pit lane where Josh Barrett is about to speak to our successful drivers.
So we're down here in the pit lane after that very tricky first heat of the 2023 Walter Hayes Trophy. Drivers just getting out of their cars, finished in the top 3 where they started. So Michael Moyers the winner, Luke Cooper in second, and then Hugh Esselstyn in third position. So start in third position, I think, with Hugh Esselstyn, who's just taken his helmet off. And Hugh had huge amounts of spray that you were following, but couldn't quite pass Luke, but a real big attempt there from you.
Yeah, quite a big amount of spray, but it's kind of what racing in the wet is in Britain. Happy to just keep learning. These two guys know their way around. My first day at the track was Wednesday, so just figuring it around, learning from the best, and then hopefully have a little more for them tomorrow.
You had, I think, your first race in Britain a couple of months ago at Brands Hatch. And I'd say from that point, you've made huge progress as to where you are this weekend.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of driving improvement, and overall from September I think I've improved quite a lot, but also learning the new tire over here. Luckily I had my brother to help out a little bit. He was quite quick here the last couple of years, and then also Kodik, who's in this race, taught me a bunch from when he came over a while ago with Team USA, so learning it out. I think we have something for them tomorrow though. How
much from what you raced in the States, I think you run on slick tyres there, so how much the difference between those cars and the ones you race here in Britain?
Yeah, quite a bit. This is a proper race car. I love the Team Pelfrey F1600 at home, but if the slicks don't make it quite a difference when you're a good driver. So it's fun racing these in the wet especially. So like I said, let's give it a go tomorrow.
Obviously today I think it's been much wetter than any of the testing has been, so a big sort of adjustments to make, and then obviously that race so tricky, you only got a few racing laps, but how did you find all the track conditions? Yeah, it was a shame without the safety car. I think we could have gotten into a rhythm there. It was quite wet all testing, to be honest. Like Wednesday and Thursday were almost just as wet, plus a little bit of oil to make it extra fun. So I think we're well suited for these conditions. Well, best of luck for tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see you again. So there was our third position driver. I think if I can quickly grab second with Luke, if that's possible. Luke, the first part you sort of had a good challenge on Michael, but then the restart didn't quite go to plan, so Hugh was right on you.
Yeah, these conditions are so difficult out there, and visibility is really bad as well. So a lot of the time I'm kind of trying to pull out the spray just to see where I'm going more than anything, judge when Michael's braking and then using that to brake, to guess when I brake. But I was never really quite close enough. I mean, the initial start was good, but after the safety car I was never really close enough to make a move, unfortunately. But it was a good first race. Was quite a big part of that race just survival in what is pretty good position at the end of the day? Yeah, I mean, today very much is about survival. You can't win it on the Saturday, but you can certainly lose it. So getting a second place today is a good result, and puts us in a good position for tomorrow. I guess unlike the other two guys, you've done a lot of racing in the UK this year, mainly at Castle Combe, where the season sort of got better and better, and then that went well a couple of weeks ago at Brands Hatch, bringing all that momentum here. Yeah, very good. I mean, we have brilliant pace. We should have been on pole for the race, but a few things went against us there. But we have really good pace in the race as well, so hopefully we can put that forward to tomorrow and get a great result out of it. We're hoping the condition will be a lot drier tomorrow. Is that something you're looking forward to, or do you like these wet conditions? I like the wet conditions, but overtaking and visibility is really difficult. So starting further and back, now I finished second in that one, I'll be on the second row for tomorrow, so that's less than ideal. It's easier overtaking the faster guys in the dry than it is in the wet. But yeah, we'll just have to see what it is tomorrow and make our mains up there. Well done on second position, and the winner was Michael Moyes. So Michael, if you don't mind coming over for a word with us, a race win. I think your first win in this particular car?
Yeah, in Medina, I think it is actually. Yeah. So no, it's a project we took on about over a year ago now. So we debuted it. It was the debut of the car last year at the Hayes. Struggled a little bit naturally being a brand new car, but the team have made an absolutely tremendous job over the last year. So much progress has been made, so massive thanks to Simon Hadfield Motorsport, my mechanic Ali, and all my sponsors for making this happen. And as that race went on, the conditions were really hard, so I guess being in first place was quite helpful from the qualifying. Yeah, the biggest concern for me was the spray, and I just wanted to make sure I could see where I was going, basically, because qualifying was very, very difficult to see anything. So it was very important that I got I got P1 off the start, held P1. And I just was checking my mirrors now and again and just making sure the gap wasn't getting any closer and just managing that until the end, really. How much aquaplaning is that? I know it's sometimes getting quite twitchy and sideways. Yeah, it was. Yeah, the aquaplaning's not too bad now. There's not as much standing water, but it was, when you're shifting to 4 through wood coat, it always tried to spin the rear wheels. So it keeps you on your toes. It certainly isn't easy. Obviously, you've been doing Formula 4 1600 for quite a number of years. How do you sort of find lots of new drivers coming in all the time? Everyone seems pretty quick whenever they appear. Absolutely. The standard just seems to get higher and higher and higher. It's great to see all the scholarship drivers here from Canada and America and everywhere else. So, it's great. I've been doing it for a long time, but, it's great to test myself against the new young kids coming through, and it's a great opportunity for them to race against, some more experienced people. So, I think it's a great balance. And obviously the two cars you run most of racing the spectrum in this are more modern cars, sort of getting newer. Do the cars change much over the years? Yeah, quite a lot, to be honest. The cars change a lot, but the lap times always seem to be about the same. Yeah. So when you get to sort of the end of the programme with development, it's always very, very close. So although it's a multi-chassis formula, it's always incredibly close. So that's what makes it such great racing.
Absolutely, that's why we love Formula Ford, isn't it?
100%, absolutely. That's why I'll keep doing this for as long as I'm enjoying it.
Well, great stuff. Hope it all goes well for you tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Thanks a lot.
So there's Michael Moores, our winner. Second place was Luke Cooper, and then in third position was Hugh Esterson. So they are the top three from our first heat of the Walter Hayes Trophy. And what we're going to do now is go and catch up with the Team USA Scholarship, who have been a big part to make sure this live stream has been possible for you to watch at home. And they've got 2 cars this weekend, so they are just behind us in the garage. So we'll have a word with the 2 drivers and the person who's put this all together, which is Jeremy Shaw. But we'll start with the 2 drivers, Jack and Ayrton, if you make your way over here. Jack Sullivan, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I started racing go-karts when I was 5 years old back in 2011. I kind of stayed in vintage karting for a couple years, and then we decided to move into modern karting in 2018 season. Kind of did the steps in karting and then got our own car, and it's been a father-son operation since 2021. I was able to pick up a couple wins in the American FRP 1600 series last year alongside Ayrton, and me and Ayrton won the Team USA scholarship this year, and now we're here.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk to Ayrton a bit about your progression before the Team USA scholarship came along.
Yeah, so being from Indianapolis, Indiana, you know, I've always been growing up in racing, so this is always something I've wanted to be a part of. I grew up very similar to Jack. I started racing go-karts when I was 13, moved up from go-karts into asphalt and dirt midget car racing, and alongside of that I was doing Formula 1600 over in America. I had 2 seasons of Formula 1600 under me before we came out and got the Team USA scholarship this year with Jack, and then brought the talent that I gained over there, brought it over here, and just learning these cars and tires and having a ton of fun at these amazing tracks.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. It's Jeremy Shaw, who runs the program. Jeremy, you've been doing this for so many years. First, you tell us about why you decided to start Team USA Scholarship.
Well, originally back in 1990, they were cancelling British Formula Ford races through lack of interest. They had fields of 4 or 5 cars, so I thought, well, gosh, if this is going to be the last year of the Formula Ford Festival, then I want to be there. And then I started talking to some people in the IndyCar paddock, because I'd been based already in the States for several years then, and I said, look, you know, the Formula Ford Festival is one of the great events in the world, certainly for Formula Ford. Wouldn't it be fun to take a young American over there? So we got together with a few people, they put a bit of money, and we came over here with Jimmy Vassar, and clearly a lot of other people had the same idea, because I think there were 192 cars turned up for the festival, so that's not dead. The Walter Hayes Trophy is sort of taken over several years later as you know, the event now to be in Formula Ford, so it's great to continue that legacy. You know, I'm a huge believer in Formula Ford. Just love it. It's the best training ground for young drivers, in my opinion. Always has been for, you know, well over 50 years now. And you know, I was lucky enough to race some of these cars slightly different than they were back then. But I know how these cars can teach young drivers the skills in racing. Okay, modern cars are very different, but the skills they get from Formula Ford are still unrivaled, and that's why we do this thing now.
And then coming back to Jack and Ayrton, tell us a bit about the process for the scholarship this year. How have you come to choose your 2 drivers?
Yeah, well, these 2 are the last 2 standing. No, look, I try to pay attention to the grassroots of American racing, and we're looking for 2 guys who are kind of ready to take the advantage of the opportunity to come over here. I mean, they've had a fantastic few weeks. They've had lots of seat time. They've probably driven more in the last few weeks than they have the entire season long. So that aspect has been great. They've been to various Formula One teams as well. They've been, you know, the team's been fantastic. Opened the doors up and showed them around, you know, what motor racing really is like on the other side, so to speak. So it's a full immersion. But you know, these 2. They were impressing in the F1600 series in the US, which is kind of the equivalent to Formula Ford over here. And we had a short list of 6 drivers initially and had a shootout. And then at the end of the shootout, these 2 were the top guys. And there was about 25 people from the American racing industry who were part of the voting process before we selected these 2. So it's not just me, it's a whole good cross-section of racing industry in North America that decided these are the 2 guys, and you know, they seem to reckon they've got a good future ahead of them. We will see.
We'll catch up again with them to how this change has been, because Jeremy was saying about the American racing scene coming to Britain. How have you found that over these last couple of months?
Well, it's been a blast. We've been living in Brackley, just a couple minutes away here. First time for me living on my own, first time for Ayrton going out of the country, so it's been a blast, and getting used to the cars and the tires, it was much more of a difference than I thought it would be. The tire just has so much less grip than than in America, so the slip angle that you have to take through the corners is a lot more, and that was just something that it kind of took a while to kind of wrap my head around that, and once it clicks, it really just clicks, and you just start wheeling it, you know. And yeah, so finally it took a couple weekends to figure it out, and we've got some pace in it this weekend, so pretty confident moving into the heat.
And Ayrton, both of you were here at Silverstone sort of 6 weeks ago for the national championship. Then you had a round at Castle Combe, two totally different circuits, and I guess very different tracks that you've raced on the past as well.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the tracks over here are very different from most of the American tracks, so I'm having a ton of fun learning the different driving styles that are needed over here. The national here at Silverstone was our first outing with the Ammonite guys, and I'm glad we're doing a bit stronger here than we did at the national. But Castle Combe was a great time. We really started to click there at Castle Combe. We brought in a 4th and a 6th there in both races. So really starting to just gain on that momentum, brought it into Brands Hatch, got some good strong performances there, and just rolling that over into Silverstone this weekend. Looking really strong. The qualifying didn't really go to our way, but we're looking strong for the heat race, and we're looking forward to the semifinals.
Yeah, you mentioned being here in the UK. I guess when you both come here, it was quite nice weather, wasn't it, 6 weeks ago? Then the last few weeks has been pretty horrendous, and then particularly today, I know you didn't get many laps in your qualifying session, but tell us how tricky those conditions were.
Well, in the green flag laps, it was a lot of standing water. I found in some of the braking zones, the car would just kind of go with streams of water, and it made it a bit tricky, but then the safety car came out and just following cars, so we got really wet, and it's been freezing out here. But the good thing is it's a couple degrees warmer here than it is at home, so kind of surprising, but that's how it's been. But so far, testing, we've had almost a taste of everything. We almost got a taste of dry, but it rained right at the last second yesterday. But definitely confident in the wet weather this weekend. So.
And Jeremy was telling us there about all the different places you've been, all the different Formula One teams you've gone to see. What do you think of those facilities?
Yeah, no, it was actually very amazing to be able to see behind the scenes at some of these really top-notch racing facilities. We got into Mercedes just recently, McLaren before that. Before that was Alpine and Haas, and it's just been amazing to see the behind the scenes on what it takes to really run these top-of-the-level cars and how specific and accurate all of these cars are. It's been amazing. The people we've met, the places we've been. Jeremy's really been helping us out over here, and we've been able to meet some amazing people.
You mentioned earlier that you'd come from Indianapolis, so I guess you've been to the Indy 500 before. So how different is it, how IndyCar operates to how Formula One operates from what you've seen?
Yeah, I haven't been to a Formula One race in person, but it just seems like the IndyCar races are a lot more open. You can go into a lot of places, meet a lot of people there. It seems a bit more reserved at the Formula One weekends, but overall, I think it's very similar. They're both very top-of-the-line racing series. And the tracks here are massive for the Formula One cars, so you get a bit lost out there in such a small little Formula Ford, but lets us carry a ton of speed, gives us a lot of space for racing, so I'm looking forward to it.
And Jack, you were telling me earlier about, it's not just Formula Ford cars you've driven while you've been in the UK, you got to drive one of the GB3 cars at Donington Park.
Yeah, what an experience that was. Obviously, that was quite a big jump from a Formula Ford, my first time in a wing car, and I think the thing that really stuck with me was that one downshift and sending it into the corner, the old hairpin at Donington at almost 120 miles an hour at the apex. It's just a feeling that you wouldn't believe it. I mean, it's just incredible, and I'm making it my goal to make that a regular feeling every single lap next year. So, yeah, it. Absolutely an awesome experience. The power of that car. Every time I'd click an upshift, my head would fly forward. And these Formula Fords, we don't have that much power, but just completely different. I mean, so much grip, so much power. It was just awesome.
And you mentioned there, you referenced that's a hope for next year. Obviously, we've seen Max Esterson and a few other USA scholarship going to GB3. So you think that is a realistic target?
I'm currently looking to find the budget to move into GB3, but anything that'll keep me over here in the UK, GB4, GB3, something over here I would prefer. I see the cost is a little bit less over here overall, and I think finding the budget after winning the scholarship might make it a lot easier, and I'd definitely like to follow in Max's footsteps for sure.
And Ayrton, is that the same for you? Is GB3 or racing in Britain an option, or are you going back to the States for next season?
Yeah, so currently our sights are set on the USF 2000 series back in the States, as well as a bit of sprint car driving, moving up in my oval racing roots. But currently USF 2000 back in the States is our plans for next year.
And that program that he's on in the IndyCar package, the Road to Indy, I think it's been known, is a really good way of being able to progress through the ranks.
Oh yeah, it's been amazing. It's just been renamed to the USF Pro Championships, but that is the ladder system to get to IndyCar. And being from Indianapolis, that's been my goal for as long as I can remember.
And for the pair of you, watching racing in Britain, has that been a thing before you joined the scholarship?
Watching racing in Britain. Well, on the TV, I've seen just about every series before I came over. Obviously, the second day we were here, we actually got to come to Silverstone and watch the British Touring Car Championship, and that had the Carrera Cup, the Caterhams, the Minis. So we kind of got the taste of more of the British racing series out here, and they've all been really entertaining to watch. The racing is really great out here, and yeah, it was a great day at Silverstone to be able to kind of get the atmosphere down even before our race at the national race here. It was great to get kind of a sampler.
You mentioned the British Touring Car Championship. Is that a thing that you've been able to watch in the States, or is that quite a big shock to see what that championship is like?
Yeah, it actually was very eye-opening. I'd never heard of it before until we came over here, but those guys were on it. You know, they were aggressive, they were having fun out there, and that looked very exciting to watch when they were here at Silverstone. They were there at Brands Hatch the weekend before we went to Brands, so I mean, those guys are really on it, and it was cool to learn about all of the different series that are over here. A very eye-opening experience.
Yeah, I guess it's the same for like us guys. When we see stuff in America, it's quite different, isn't it? You said about, I think both of you said you don't race on the ovals, which is a totally different thing for us to watch.
Yeah. I mean, oval racing is just a ton of fun. I came up through the Kenyan Midget Series, and that gave me a taste. It was the first oval experience I had, and it's a lot different than these cars, but a lot of the skills really carry over. So it's been very helpful in progressing my skills in a Formula car as well.
I think, Jack, you were saying earlier that you raced with your dad before your start. Is that right?
Yeah. Me and my dad put on our own father-son program, and we managed, and we were able to pick up a couple wins in our Piper DF5, and so before this experience, I'd never raced with a professional team before. It was always just me and my dad and my grandpa showing up to the tracks, truck and trailer, and little toolbox, and that's really all we had, and that's all we really needed.
And did you come here, you know, with a big team, professional race team? Is that quite a big change, or how you've seen how that works from a father and son team?
Yeah, it's a huge change, actually. The first couple days out here, I was kind of trying to get my hands dirty in the car like I would with my dad, but they tell me, hey, get back in the trailer. We don't need your help here. You go sort out your driving, we'll sort out the car. So it's been a massive change to get used to that. But and also my dad yesterday being in the garage, the car had a little leak in coolant. He was doing all he could not to go over and try to help the guys. So it's been a massive change, but I've been loving this so far. It's been a whole lot less stressful to just sort out your driving, sort out your mental side, rather than having to do all of the car stuff as well.
And these things that we obviously saw with Max Esterson, he did a lot of sim racing. Is that something that you've done a lot of, Ayrton?
Yeah, I'm not massive in the sim racing. I'll do the simulator just to get accustomed to the tracks, but it's just a little bit different of a feel when you're on a sim versus a real car. I've never really made that connection. So I can go out and like have fun on the sim, but I've never been able to just make that jump to really be real fast on the simulator.
Is that the same for you, Jack? Do you find real life quite different, or do you find the sim very helpful?
I find the sim extremely helpful. A lot of the tracks on some of the simulators I use are laser scanned, and they give you all the reference points that you'd need, and especially with iRacing having the Ammonite Formula Ford in it, makes it a lot easier to find your reference points before going to any of the events. And a couple days before we left for the UK, our sponsor Racecraft One, he gave us some simulator training on some of the sims that he has in Indianapolis. So I actually made 2 or 3 trips up to Indy from my house in Cincinnati. So a couple 2-hour drives up there, but yeah, that was extremely helpful. He had all the data systems worked out, and yeah, it was a great time spent at Racecraft One. Yeah.
Like you say, having that Formula Ford 1600, I know a lot of British people who like their sims thought that was super cool because they've always wanted a Formula Ford on there, but having the very car you're racing must be, well, actually quite cool, but also very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you could jump from iRacing in the car. I know where every switch is, what everything does in the car, and it just made the transition a whole lot easier, for sure.
And Jeremy was telling us earlier about how the scholarships all come together. How did you find that process where you had 6 of you and then going down to you 2?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit different this year than the past couple of years, but overall it's always a bit stressful. You know, you're 6 guys competing for the chance of a lifetime. So I'm just very honored to be one of the last 2 picked. We went down to Polecat Training Center in Lynchburg, Tennessee. That's where we did the shootout. They've got an amazing facility down there, great cars, had a ton of fun there. Really just driving it on edge. You got to be the quickest to get picked. So me and Jack were able to get picked. So just a ton of fun. Very honored to be picked. Like I said before, just the chance of a lifetime to come over, really show your skills in front of some really good international talent. So very, very happy that I got chosen this year.
And obviously we've been watching the Team USA guys over all the years, and I guess the most famous is Joseph Newgarden, who obviously won the Indy 500 this year, so that's somebody you'd, I guess, look up to and would like to replicate.
Yeah, I mean, that just really goes to show the just strength that this scholarship has. I mean, it's picked out some amazing drivers over the years and gives me some footsteps to follow in while I'm going up the ranks.
And when you were sort of growing up, Jack, was the Team USA scholarship something that you aimed for? You hoped to try and get the attention of the guys there?
Well, I'd never heard of the Team USA scholarship until 2021 when I finally got into the Formula Fords, and that's when one of my good friends introduced me to Jeremy Shaw. And first year I was a nominee for the scholarship, didn't quite make it to the shootout, but second year I made it the whole way up into the UK. And since I got into my Formula Ford back home, that was the main goal, was to win the Team USA scholarship.
And Jeremy's passion for Formula Ford racing, because when I've talked to all of the Americans and the Canadians as well, to be fair, when they come over, that passion I think goes then to you guys as well, what you think of the category. So tell us what it's like working with Jeremy.
Well, you got to be on it. You have to be ready to do your blogs. You got to be on the social media stuff, and you got to be showing what you can do on the track. Working with Jeremy's been awesome in the past couple of weeks, and from the first email he sent that we were going to be going to the shootout, and up until today when you say, hey, we should do a social media post right outside here. So yeah, it's been a great time so far.
You mentioned doing the blogs there, which obviously everybody can read, because that's not something that everybody naturally will do. Obviously, you go through school, you do writing, but doing something like that, is that being a big challenge to get used to doing the writing?
No, not really. Actually, since I've been a kid, writing and reading has always been kind of a strength of mine. I got really good reading comprehension on the test scores back when I was 6, 7 years old. So writing hasn't really come as much of a challenge to me. So the blogs have been really enjoyable, actually, to just kind of recap what we've been doing. It makes me kind of keep the things that we did flowing in my mind, so I'm not going to forget it. And also just having something to publish and let everybody back home see what's going on makes it a lot better.
And for you, Ashton, talking about the social media, the media side, I like doing this. How have you sort of found that? Because having lots of cameras around must be quite new.
Yeah. So it's been great. You know, all the publicity we've been getting because of the Team USA scholarship. I think my followers count has grown significantly. So I owe all that to Team USA and the people he's put us in contact with. I think the social media aspect of racing is absolutely massive. A lot of people overlook it, but the amount of connections you can make on social media and the amount of people you can reach and really just show your side of everything is very overlooked in most cases, but we've been able to really be focused on social media. A lot of help from Jeremy Shaw and the Team USA scholarship on that aspect, so I think that's really helping us as drivers. And just off-track type of racing where you got to promote yourself as a business has been greatly influenced by this entire experience.
And now we're not that far away from back here today with your heat. Bizarrely, both of you have ended up in the same heat. So with the qualifying thing not quite going to plan, is it perhaps working together to see if you can get up the order, Jack?
Yeah, so it's kind of going to be a tricky race out there with all the spray. So just trying to keep our head down, get a good start. Maybe Ayrton can pick up a position, and we'll kind of tow each other and hopefully move up to the front of the pack and then see what happens in the last couple laps.
Did you watch that earlier heat, Ayrton, to sort of get any tips to see how the racing was going?
Yeah, we were up in the trailer watching the stream of our teammate Hugh, who just got a podium finish in that heat. So we were noticing a lot of spray on the track. I think visibility is going to be a big factor in this race, as well as a couple of lines are a bit different out there, because when it gets this wet, you're trying to stay off of the puddles more than you're trying to stay off of the slick part of the track. So the lines are a bit different than usual, but I think we know what we got to do. We got a good start and just put our head down and get up to the front.
Did you sort of learn things at Brands Hatch, how the racing was and how the knockout system works to how to be successful, Jack?
Yeah, it's all about getting your qualifying right, to get your heat right, to get your semi right, and then get into the final and see how you can do in that. But obviously getting the wet day, the wet running time at Brands has made it a whole lot easier to come back to Silverstone with how wet it's been all 4 days so far. And yeah, so the knockout qualifying, or the knockout system, has been very intense. The festival is probably the most intense race I've been to so far, and with the higher car count, this might even be more intense. But I was lucky enough to get my quali sorted, heat sorted, and everything sorted at the final, and I was able to get a P9 finish at the festival, and hoping to at least do that or maybe better this weekend at the Hayes.
And everybody tells me every year we have these interviews, Ayrton, that the racing is very different to America. Have you found that at Brands Hatch?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's a lot tighter here. Everybody's really on it. You got to stay on it. You got to stay honest. And I had a bit of a hiccup in the semifinal where I was running 5th, dropped back to like 13th. Just a small off, and I just lost like 7, 8 positions just like that. So you really just got to stay on top of it. No mistakes. Stay quick, because you never know what could happen. Everybody's right there. You'll fall back just like that.
Well, I hope you both have a really good weekend. Hopefully we'll see you again, because that means you'll be finishing on the podium, and we'll be following both your progress, whether that's in the UK or America. We always follow the Team USA scholarship guys here in the UK.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Right, so thanks to Ayrton Houck and to Jack Sutherland. They're really good to catch up with the Team USA scholars. Jeremy Shaw's still here, so if we can, again, had a good chat there with the boys, Jeremy, and they were telling us about sort of following everything, and going back to what you were telling us earlier, Jimmy Vasser back in 1990, but there's been so many top names since then that you've been able to bring over here.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, this year's Indianapolis 500 was one Joseph Newgarden was over here 15 years ago. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Jimmy went on to win an IndyCar Championship. Buddy Rice was over. He didn't do Formula Ford actually, Buddy, but he went on to win Indy 500 as well. And J.R. Hildebrand came within 100 yards of winning in 2011. So the guys have had a lot of success over the years, and this is just a launch pad for them. And you've just heard there how erudite they are, and really smart young men who have all the right attributes. I mean, clearly they're pretty good in a race car in very different conditions racing here this weekend. But the important thing is that for any young driver to be able to move on up the ladder, they've got to have the personal skills. They've got to networking and make those connections to allow them the opportunities to move on from here.
And what we've just done really with them there, talking to them for a good amount of time, they've been able to talk very well, which not all young drivers can do.
Well, is that absolutely right, and that's a big part of it for me. I mean, driving fast is one thing. There's lots of kids who can drive fast, but having all those other skills, that's what you're going to need to make a career out of this sport. It's really tough, and it's even more difficult these days because the costs are so much higher than they were back even 15, 20 years ago. So if you haven't got those skills to back up your racing talent, then probably not going to happen.
And obviously things nowadays, we hear about IndyCar and Formula 1 being people's aims, but sports car racing now, especially this year with all the new manufacturers coming in, that is where we've seen quite a lot of USA scholars and a lot of young drivers now progressing towards sports cars, which I know you have a good passion for too.
Yeah, very, very true. I'm lucky enough to be part of the IMSA radio broadcast team, and the competition we've had this year in the IMSA World Tech Sports Car Championship has been absolutely fantastic. And next year it's looking even better. I can hardly wait for Daytona, the Rolex 24 in January next year. But you're right. I mean, there's so many opportunities, I think, for youngsters. And with sports car racing, even the feeder series towards either the WEC or the IMSA World Tech Championship, the support races there that have 2 drivers in the cars. There's a lot of opportunities there to maybe hook up with a gentleman driver who's going to foot most of the bill, so they can sort of serve as coaches as well as getting the job done behind the wheel.
I know you don't spend as much time in Britain nowadays, but you were at Brands a couple of weeks ago here this weekend. What do you sort of think to how British motorsport scene's changed since you were regularly here?
I'll tell you what, the weather hasn't changed, has it? I remember, I first came here a long time ago, because I was at school just down the road, so that was 50 odd years ago now, which is hard to imagine. But that aspect haven't changed. But I tell you what, the track itself, just looking around the facilities here, it's very, very different. And Formula Ford, the cars are a bit different. They're certainly more sophisticated now in some ways, but the still the quality of the competition is as good as it ever was. So from that aspect, not much has changed. So yeah, something's changed. Everything stays the same as well, doesn't it?
Because we're sort of saying the grids are down a little bit this year. Formula Ford racing in the season perhaps struggled more, but these end of season events, the final at the festival was quite extraordinary. Hopefully we're going to get the same tomorrow. I
tell you what, I mean, that has to have been one of the best finals they've ever had at the Formula Ford Festival. I've been to quite a few, certainly all the early ones. And that was just a cracking race from start to finish, and all the way through the field too. There might be a few down in terms of total numbers here, perhaps, as there was a couple of weeks ago. But the competition at the front is still really, really, really good. And these guys who have so much experience are still very fast. If you can beat them or run with them, clearly you've got the skills to move on forward. And most of the guys, even now, people. Chris Middlehurst, Niall Murray's not here this weekend, but Rory Smith and all these other guys, I mean, they are really super talented drivers. The tricky bit is finding the money to move on from there to make proper careers for themselves, but they certainly have the skills. There's no question about that.
Well, thanks, Jeremy, and thanks for helping us be able to bring this to everybody.
Thank you so much for really super. I can see how hard you guys are working in not easy conditions, so thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Jeremy, and good to hear from Team USA Scholarship. We'll be following their progress. They're out in Heat 3, which is coming up about half an hour's time. Cars, though, for Heat 2 have headed to the assembly area, so we'll head back to the commentary box, back to Ian Soman for Heat 2 of the 2023 Walter Hayes Trophy.
Thank you very much indeed, Josh. It was great to hear there from Jeremy Shaw and indeed from Jack Sullivan and Ayrton Howe what articulate young men they are, and I'm sure they have very bright futures ahead of them, although they've got their work cut out this weekend with relatively lowly grid positions for Heat 3 of the Walter Hayes Trophy that's coming up soon. Heat 2 to come before that, though, and some big news, because the driver that had qualified in second place has had all of his lap times disallowed. That's Jeremy Fairbairn, who I know had some support in the comments on the live stream earlier, and that was because he overtook under a red flag. So he's going to have to start from the back of the grid, Jeremy Fairbairn, with a 10-second penalty, and he certainly is one of the quick drivers. 5 weeks ago here at Silverstone in the British Racing and Sports Car Club National Championship round, he was very much involved in the lead pack, led the race for a while as well, and would have been expected to go well here, but he is going to have to come through from the back of the grid. Reminder that 13 cars will go through to the semi-final, so he's got quite a bit of work to do if he is going to get into those positions. I can tell you, though, that we can see there the two cars on the second row of the grid, the two South African drivers on screen at the front of shot at the moment. Andrew Rackstraw is on the right-hand side of the picture. Josh LaRue is on the left-hand side of the picture. They're both in the KMR Sport. That's the Kevin Mills run Spectrum 011Cs. Behind them as well is another Spectrum for Jacob Toft as well, but behind, or ahead of both of them, I should say, pole position is Josh Fisher in his Van Diemen RF99. He keeps coming back year after year after year, very keen to finally get his name on the Walter Hayes Trophy. He's been on the podium quite a few times, including last season when he was third. He was second as well in 2017, for example, but he's yet to have that elusive win in the Walter Hayes Trophy. And also alongside him on the grid is Jason Smith. Now, he is the son of Neville Smith, who 20 years ago this weekend made his Walter Hayes Trophy debut, and he was always a driver who put all of his effort into it, and he was the runner-up to Peter Dempsey back in the 2006 running of the events. He always had tremendous support, but couldn't again quite win the Walter Hayes Trophy, a bit like Josh Fisher. So now the Smith dynasty has been passed on to Jason, and Jason, who went well to Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago, is going to fly the family flag and try to progress through the Walter Hayes Trophy this weekend. He's going to start this race second on the grid. And so Andrew Rackstraw will be third and Josh LaRue in fourth position. We were saying Jeremy Fairbairn starting this at the back of the grid. No. Looks like we've got a car out on circuit at the moment doing some qualifying laps out of session for one of the support races this weekend, which is why we have a slight delay before the cars are released out onto the circuit. So Josh Fisher, as I've mentioned, he is going to be lining up on pole position in the number 81 car. Yep, third in last year's final, fifth in 2021, seventh in 2020, eighth in 2018, second in 2017, fifth in 2013, and third in 2011 as well. He was the three-time Castle Combe Formula Ford 1600 champion, most recently in 2019, but also in 2017 and 2008 as well. And in the first flush of his career, he raced in sort of top-level single-seaters in Formula BMW. He was third in the championship in 2004. He also did Zip Formula, remember that? The formula created by Martin Hines. He was second in that championship in 2002. Jason Smith, as I say, is going to be next to him on the front of the grid. He's in the Team Dolan Ray GR14 bold-engined car. And as I say, the son of Neville, but this season he's been racing in the Northern Ireland Formula Ford Championship on occasion, where he's finished fourth. He was second in the Martin Donnelly Trophy as well at Kyrgyzstan earlier this year to Jordan Dempsey, who took the win there this season. Second row of the grid for this second heat is going to be Andrew Rackstraw in the KMR Sport Spectrum. And he dominated Formula 1600 in South Africa in 2021. He was third in the Global Touring Car Championship, which is based in South Africa this year. It's a bit like the World Series of Baseball. It's entirely based in one country, South Africa, and he had a win at Zwartkops this year. So that's Andrew Rackstraw, but he's one of several South Africans coming across to race in the WHT HEAT Trophy here in the UK as part of a programme organised by Ian Schofield. Josh LaRue, his fellow countryman, is going to start next to him on the grid. There you can see closest to the camera there with the black KM umbrella sheltering him from the rain at the moment. He was 18th in the final last year. He was 6th in the Global Touring Cars this year. He was last year's Formula Ford champion in South Africa as well. Jacob Tofts, he's been a race winner at Silverstone this year in the Super Classic Formula Ford Championship. He's in the Kevin Mills Racing Duckham's Racing Spectrum 011C, and he was second also in the 2023 United Formula Ford Championship. He's done lots of esports in the past and is the son of long-time Formula Ford racer Neil Toft as well. Jordan Kelly is going to be next up on the grid. Now, he's a bit further back than you might expect to find him. 6th on the grid, the outside of the third row for the Team Dolan Van Diemen LA10 for the driver that won the National Championship here in the UK this season at the first attempt. It went down to the final round, which was here at Silverstone. The cars are now being released out onto the circuit. Jordan Kelly winning the National Formula Ford Championship at his first attempt. He was 6th in the Formula Ford Festival a couple of weeks ago. He also won the David Leslie Trophy up at Knockhill this year, and he was the Irish Digital Motorsport champion back in 2020. Started out his car racing career, though, in Formula E over there in Ireland, where they use the 1600cc engine rather than the 1300 Beetle engine as is used in the UK. Then on to the fourth row of the grid. That's where we're going to find Alex Berg. He's in the Graham Brunton Racing run car on behalf of Team Canada Scholarship, the Ray GR15, as the car's heading off onto the green flag lap, as you can now see. So he is the 2023 US F4. He's fourth there, and is the son of Alan Berg, who was an F1 racer in the 1980s. So you can see the cars heading off onto the green flag. Now getting used to these tricky conditions. I'm not sure that they've changed too much since qualifying. James Tucker in the Treble 5 car. He is going to be 8th on the grid in the Tucker Motorsport Swift SC92. But let's have a quick look at this grid now as we have that available to us as we go around the green flag lap. So pole position is going to go the way of Josh Fisher. And besides him is Jason Smith, so they make up the front row. Two South Africans on row 2, Andrew Rackstraw and Josh LaRue. Jacob Tofts and Jordan Kelly are on the third row of the grid. On to row 4, that's where we'll find, as we were just saying, Alex Berg and James Tucker. It's the two Toms on row 5, Tom Hawkins in the Ray, and Tom Bradshaw, former Northwest Formula Ford champion in the Van Diemen. Row 6, Callum Grant and James Clark, both Van Diemen mounted. And then on to row 7 of the grid, it's Adam Fathers and Chris Acton to raise there. Jake Shortland and Simon Hadfield in Lola and Van Diemen make up the next row of the grid. Row 9 is Mark McKenna's Crosley and Nigel Thompson's Van Diemen. Row 10, you've got Andy Clark in the Van Diemen RF95K, relatively unusual car that, and Richard Frey, who was successful at Alton Park a couple of weeks ago in the Super Classic rounds there. He lines up on the outside of row 10 ahead of Peter Hannam, Colin Turner, and then at the back of the grid with that 10-second penalty for the red flag infringement in qualifying, Jeremy Fairburn. So that's the way the grid lines up, Josh. You're back in the dry, you've had your lunch, refueled, ready to go for 3 more heats of Formula Ford action. What can we expect from this one?
It wasn't raining too much, I don't think. Well, not when we were doing those interviews. It may have rained a little bit more. But it's interesting, we're going for the standing start now, isn't it? So we've seen what a race is like. Obviously, race control are confident that a standing start is possible. So that changes the ethos of this race quite dramatically, doesn't it? What can you do on the opening lap? And then we can see Josh Fisher on pole position then in the Wayne Poole Racing Van Diemen. Great qualifying from Jason Smith, who's, I think you've been described, on a bit of Irish Formula Ford. And much like Hugh Esterson in the last race, did the Champion of Brands race in September, a very strong grid there. And what we've sort of seen out of him in those races there and at Brands Hatch at the festival is he's pretty quick, but a few mistakes have come, which perhaps you'd expect from one of the younger drivers who's not done so much racing. But to qualify there on the front row of the grid is very impressive. And then you've got 2 South Africans who have been quick at the Waterhays Trophy in the past. It looks like it's raining again properly now, doesn't it? There on the second row. And then Jacob Tops having his... he's had one outer in this spectrum before, but it's not a car that he traditionally has been racing. And Jordan Kelly, the national champion, who at the festival again was quick, but went off more times than he really needed to. So you've got a lot of quick drivers. And then James Tucker, starring in the older Swift on there on row 4. Sometimes we see in these races when it's wet the older cars can come strong, and James Tucker, good effort there in qualifying.
Yeah, top driver though, Supercar Grand Prix winner back in 2009.
Missing Tom Bradshaw, I reckon, from row 5.
So maybe he's just going for the historic...
No, he's in a newer car this year.
Isn't he? That's right, yes, you're quite right. He's not eligible for one of the historic races, so Tom Bradshaw with a problem. But there we go, 2 cars on the front of the grid. Josh Fisher is so old now that he raced against Neville Smith when he was doing the World Haze Trophy, and now he's racing against Jason Smith, Neville's son. Josh has got a young lad who's got into karting at a very early age, so we'll probably see a new Fisher on the World Haze Trophy grid before too much longer. And confirmation, Mark McKenna, I think, also missing from the grid in his Crosley, as the lights go out and the race gets underway then. For 8 laps of racing, Jeremy Fairbairn being held at the back of the grid because he's got that 10-second penalty. It's Josh Fisher and Jason Smith leading the way through Copse Corner for the first time as they make their way through. And we've got a spinner, and it is Josh Fisher. He looked very crossed up on the way into the corner, and he's out of the... Well, he's not out of the race, but Andrew Rackstraw is out of the race in car number 40 from the second row of the grid. Yeah. So it's Jason Smith leading.
Yeah, not sure if there was contact or not there, but obviously Rackstraw, as Fisher had his off, went with him. Third place is Tops. Look at Callum Grant. He's up to 6th. There's Bradshaw, so for some reason he wasn't lined up where we expected him to. But Tom Bradshaw is there. But Callum Grant's made a great start. He's up into 6th position, I think, in his RF91, the car that Tom Bradshaw raced last year. Somewhat confusingly, they've swapped cars for this season here, but it is Jason Smith that leads, and Josh LaRue is second. Big challenge there from Jordan Kelly. He's battling with Alex Berg, the 17-year-old Canadian, who's there in 4th, just about, with the Irishman Kelly behind. Then Callum Grant in that older car making a really good start up to 6th.
Coming through to the end of lap 1 and skating off the road, there goes Tom Bradshaw then. He's done lots of racing and historics and more modern cars since he had that Formula Ford Championship probably 17 years ago, but he's out of the heat. He's going to have to go through the progression race tomorrow. End of lap 1 then, and it's Jason Smith that leads by about half a second from Josh LaRue. Jacob Tops 3rd, Jordan Kelly 4th, Alan Berg 5th, Callum Grant is 6th, then James Tucker 7th, Tom Hawkins, Chris Acton, James Clark rounding out the top 10 as we have yellow flags waving at the first corner, of course, with those cars that were off, Andrew Rackstraw in particular.
Yeah, I think he's the only one that didn't continue. Josh Fisher's back to 12th, so he gained a number of positions since he was off the circuit there at Copse Corner, but he is still going. Differing lines being taken, and there is number 59, which is Chris Acton in his Sony Motorsport Run Ray, trying to go around the outside of James Clark, who won the CESAR Trophy last season. But up front, Jason Smith going away from Josh LaRue. He was leading by half a second at the start of the lap. That's extended out to 7/10 of a second between the two of them. There is Kelly, who is caught Jacob Toft for third position. So Jacob Toft's there in third spot in the spectrum, just ahead.
Yeah, he's dropped Alex Berg, really, hasn't he, down in fifth position.
One of the Kevin Mills cars off in the background. Not sure if we can get that at Brooklands.
Try and pick up who that was. Certainly we can see Josh Fisher there. He is making up ground. Now, here is Jason Smith coming towards us in the lead of the race. Who is in second? Hard to pick out through the display. It's still Josh LaRue there in second place. And Jacob Toft's in third at the end of the lap. There is the sixth car, that's Andy Clark. Behind him is Jeremy Fairbairn, who's now up to 18th position, make that 17th as they come through towards the end of the lap.
I'm not sure what the car was. Oh, it was Rackstraw. He's back going. So the marshals have got him out of the gravel at Cox, and he was the car, I think, who may have made another mistake as he got back going. But Jordan Kelly there, number 99, sets the fastest lap, 1 minute 13.1, which is 4/10 of a second quicker than the leader. So Jordan Kelly, who won the national championship impressively this year in the Team Dolan Van Diemen, he qualified 6th. He's progressed to 4th. Okay, 2 fell off in front of him, but he looks quicker than the cars ahead. He is quicker on the lap times.
Yeah, he was settling the championship here 5 weeks ago. It was all in dispute until that final round of the championship. Lucas Romanek, his rival for the championship, but he skates off the road and into the gravel trap. Now, can he get it through the gravel trap? He's going to find Tom Bradshaw a little bit further round the corner. Can he get out of the gravel trap? Jordan Kelly, the national champion. Yes, he can. He's back into the race.
I feel like we said this 2 weeks ago at Brands Hatch. He was in the gravel during the heat in wet conditions, and that has meant now Jason Smith up front has got a 1.4 second lead over Josh LaRue, who's been caught by Jacob Toft, so there's about to develop him for second position. But we've had a lot more action in those first 3 laps than we had in the whole of the opening heat, it would seem, and all due to the standing start. That may happen at the start of the race, but since then people pushing on, making mistakes. So here is Jacob Toft, who's really going well here. He's been a winner in the United Formula Ford Championship, you mentioned earlier, in the older car in the Super Classic as well. But this is pretty impressive stuff, isn't it, for him up in third position and challenging Josh LaRue ahead, the last year's South African Formula Ford champion.
He is indeed. Jason Smith, though, with the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap, getting away. He's 1.2 seconds clear of the second place car, which is Josh LaRue at the moment, who is under pressure from Jacob Toft. Alex Berg quite a distance back now in 4th position. Callum Grant continues to lead his class. Simon Hadfield, his class, and at the moment is the last of the qualifiers. Jeremy Fairbairn up to 17th, and he's got to find 8 seconds in the remaining 4 laps of this race to get into the top 13.
Now, Callum Grant versus James Tucker. Are we going to see that in the Janet CESAR Trophy, I wonder, for the pre-98 cars? For Callum Grant in the Van Diemen RF91 and for James Tucker the Swift SC92. There's Simon Hadfield, the first of the Cole Harmer cars for pre-1982 cars. He's in a car that Henry Chart was so quick in a couple of weeks ago at Brands Hatch, with Simon Hadfield, the expert historic car preparer. They're in 13th position, so if he stays there, it will progress to the semi-finals.
It's not that far ahead of Jake Shortland, though, only about 7/10 of a second. Josh Fisher now up to 9th. He's just done the best lap of the race as well, as you can see on the screens.
He's only lapping 3/10 quicker than James Clark ahead of him, who is very quick, and they are both catching Tom Hawkins ahead, so that could be a battle to watch. And here is Jake Shortland then in that Lola T440, the Neil Fowler prepared car, and he goes around the outside into Mackett's to get himself ahead of Simon Hadfield to get that 13th spot.
Yeah, and who's that behind them as well? Is that Rackstraw, who's a lap down, isn't he? So he will be quicker than these two, but this won't be 4th position. He will try and get by. Simon Hadfield, meanwhile, is trying to come back at Jake Shortland now. Van Diemen against Lola then. The spectrum goes past them both along the Wellington Straight. Simon Hadfield's going to have the inside line here for Brooklands Corner, but he's kind of got Andrew Rackstraw in the way. Can he get through there? He does, but then he's going to be on the outside line for Luffield, but I think he's just about got that sealed anyway. So Simon Hadfield goes back into the semi-final, into 13th place, although Shortland tries to go around the outside of him again.
You mentioned Josh Fisher. He's going around now with Jordan Kelly. So the two drivers that have both been off track in this race. They're in 9th and 10th positions, catching James Clark, who in turn is very much catching Tom Hawkins. So a good battle for 7th going on while we watch this battle for what is 13th position, the last position to proceed into the semi-final. They're both being caught by Jeremy Fairbairn, who started from the back of the grid, the 19-year-old Floridian.
You think he's going to knock both of these out, isn't he, as he progresses?
Yeah, hopefully in in semi-final terms rather than anything else. But they're going free abreast. They may not particularly know he's there, but Jeremy Fairbairn swoops around the outside of the pair of them in his Ray.
And up to 13th, so up into that final qualifying position.
But frustration, I suspect, for him after how his day has gone so far. But he's up into that 13th spot on lap 6 of the race, a lap that's just been completed by Jason Smith, so he's about half a lap behind the race leader, who leads by a couple of seconds.
Yeah, he does, and you can see how quickly Fairbairn has been able to pull away from these two still side. This doesn't matter now as far as the semi-finals concerned, but they're still having a great old dice, and Mark McKenna's not too far behind them either, is he? So he was out there in the end, although we thought he might not have been on the grid, but he is there, the Irish driver in 16th position.
Yeah, so I think we got all the cars into the race after all, didn't we? There was a couple of questions. Here's the battle for second place. They're in lap traffic. Josh LaRue is ahead of Jacob Tofts as they turn their way onto the Wellington Straight for lap 7, the penultimate lap of the race. They're a couple of seconds behind Jason Smith, who I think he's going to have his first victory if he stays there in England. I think he might have won potentially some races in Ireland before now, but the battle for second position between Josh LaRue, the South African champion from last year, and Jacob Tofts, who is in his first season of car racing.
I think so, yeah.
So getting better all the time. Son of Neil Tofts, another long-term Formula Ford 1600 racer. Not really running in the duck and delivery, is he, this weekend, Jacob Tofts, which he has traditionally done?
No, there's plain red bodywork this weekend. So we are about to complete another lap for those cars. There goes Jason Smith onto his final lap of the race. Then only 8 laps these heats, so short, sharp action. He's got traffic to deal with there, including the Richard Frey, David Bailey run. Reynard.
James Clark into the pit lane. For some reason it says Adam Farfus on your timing graphic, but it's James Clark, we believe, who's come into the pit lane, as it's now been updated for you. But that's a drama for someone that was going to proceed to the semi-final.
Yeah, indeed. Meanwhile, the second and third place cars just going past the car of Andy Clark, who's a lap down. They're about 1.2 seconds behind the leader.
It was 2.2 at the start of the lap, so that shows you how much the traffic can cost you when you're being cautious like the leader is, because he doesn't need to take the risk. Yeah, so Jason Smith it is that's looking like he's going to go through and take the win here. Be interesting if his dad's down there after the race. Maybe get a quick word with him as well if we've got time as well, if he is there. But Jason Smith making his way through Luffield Corner for the final time. As far as I've seen, he's not put a foot wrong all the way through this race. Through Luffield he goes, through Woodcote Corner for the final time, and Jason Smith wins Heat 2 then of the Walt Hayes Trophy for 2023, and it's a fairly comfortable win, it has to be said, from Josh LaRue in second place, Jacob Tofts third, Alex Berg is in fourth place, Callum Grant fifth, James Tucker sixth. They're separated by only 0.2 of a second. Josh Fisher was on pole position, finishes 7th after off on the first lap. Tom Hawkins getting ahead of Jordan Kelly for 8th place. Kelly finishing 9th. Chris Acton rounding out the top 10 there. I think something must have happened between Hawkins and Kelly. They both did a very slow last lap, so it fell a long way behind Josh Fisher, but as you say, both come through in that order.
And here's a battle further back. This is actually for the final place in the top 13. It's Simon Hadfield who's now got himself ahead.
No, he's dropped back. He's got McKenna behind him here, Shortland.
Yeah, here's Shortland, beg your pardon. Yeah, still that's the battle for 14th and 15th. So over the line goes Shortland to qualify for the semi-final. Hadfield and McKenna 14th and 15th. Nigel Thompson, Andy Clark, Richard Frey, Pete Hannam and Andrew Rackstraw complete the finishers. As we say, Rackstraw a lap down. We lost in that race Colin Turner. Oh no, Colin Turner did make it to the checker flag, you can see, but we lost James Clark and we lost Tom Bradshaw as well during the course of that race. Here's a look at the results. Jason Smith confirmed as the winner by 2 seconds in the end from Josh LaRue. So the Dolo Motorsport Ray GR14, the winner from Josh LaRue and Jacob Tofts in a Spectrum 2-3. Alex Berg for Canada was 4th, then Callum Grant and James Tucker rounded out the top 6. Josh Fisher off at the first corner, bounced back to 7th ahead of fellow Castle King regular Tom Hawkins in 8th. Jordan Kelly was 9th, Chris Acton 10th, then Adam Farthers and Jeremy Fairbairn. 13th was Shortland, 14th was Hadfield, then McKenna, Thompson, Clark, Frey, Hannam and Rackstraw complete the top 20 at the end of 8 laps of racing for Heat 2 of the Walter Hayes Trophy. Heat 3 coming up shortly, but first let's see who Josh has got to talk to.
So we're down here in the pit lane again with our top three, our race winner there, Jason Smith, being congratulated from his family after that race victory. And I think he's going to be awarded with a presentation. So we're going to the other two drivers first. Well, we're jumping, I think, before the presentation's made. So well done, Jason. A difficult race, but you got the lead at the start. So important.
Yeah, no, I got a good start. Me and Fisher were equal going into turn one. He kind of came over in front of me, and I was just with no grip on the inside. We just came together slightly. He went off, and then it was just a matter of keeping my head and just keep on putting in laps, and that was it, and that's what I done.
I guess you watched your dad race so many times, so now to win a race and to do it at the WHT Trophy is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, no, first ever win. It came so close to Martin Donnelly, and to do it here, thanks very much to James Becker running. I've known James since I was a little kid, and just a dream to do this.
And now looking forward to tomorrow, where we think the conditions might be a bit different. How do you think as it gets a bit drier, is that good for you, or are you enjoying these wet conditions today?
Oh, I really enjoy the wet, but the problem is I've no testing in the dry here at all. This is my first time to Silverstone, so this is only my third time coming to England, so I was just over the moon.
I think I've seen all your races here in England, because you're jumping the brands, think you then obviously the festival. Today's gone a lot better than those 2 days.
Way better, yeah, thank God.
Well done. I think you've got a presentation as well to the race winner. So Jason Smith will get that. And I think his dad's over here. So Neville, let's have a quick word with you. What would you think of the first win for your son here at Silverstone?
That was the hardest race of my life, and I wasn't even in the car. He drove fantastic. It was a real mature drive. Just hats off to him. So proud of him. Couldn't be more proud.
Tell us about, as a driver, what these conditions must be like for the guys out there.
They're really treacherous. It's so hard to explain. There's just zero grip. The tyres are not a wet tyre, so it's like driving on ice. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having a word. Hope it will go well for you guys tomorrow. Then Josh LaRue's just having a picture taken. Then we'll grab a word with him. Second place there for you, Josh, in these really tricky conditions. You were involved in a bit of a battle, which you came out on top of.
Yeah. There was a bit of a tangle going into turn one. Luckily, I kept it to the inside, so I kept my nose clean, and that was my goal for the race, keep my nose clean. Not used to driving in these wet conditions, as back home it's normally dry all the time, so it's still getting used to all the wet weather racing, but my goal for the race was to keep my nose clean and just keep a steady pace, and that's what I did.
I think the cars you race in South Africa are a bit different to these as well.
I race a global touring car back in South Africa. So, it's an Audi. It's a lot different than a single-seater, adapting to body roll and not body roll in these cars. So it's a huge difference getting back into one of these.
You mentioned you race touring cars, but kind of in the home of touring cars in Britain. Is British touring cars something you'd like to do?
We are looking at it for next year. We are looking to come to the UK. Not sure which route yet, but that's something we're looking at.
Quite exciting. We look forward to hearing what that might be. So Josh there in second position, and then in third position was Jacob Tofts in the Spectrum, who's got an umbrella we can stand under, well, potentially, maybe not. Third position, Jacob, a great result.
Yeah, thank you. That was really good. I was so really happy with the pace. I started Wednesday quite slow and a little bit off the pace, but the team have been amazing and we've got there. So to be sitting there in third and looking to get second was really good.
Yeah, we had good pace in a car that you've not driven that much.
I did the last national round, but this is the first time in monsoon conditions without seeing in front of you, yeah.
You've drove a few different Formula Fords this year. How have they sort of compared to one another?
They're all different in different ways, to be honest. The old car was really good fun here in the wet, in the dry. It would just rotate really well in the middle of the corner. The Medina was really good. Suli Motorsport were really amazing all year. Sort of sorry to see it, to not be racing it here this weekend, but KMR have been amazing, like I said. The team's really good. We've got great teammates to compare off of, and Tom and Jade are really, really good.
And you know that probably getting this third position, probably the best result you've had this year, would you say, in a race like this?
Competition-wise, yeah, this is so competitive. You can't get any more competitive than the Hayes, so really happy.
Well, best of luck tomorrow. So as the rain gets much heavier down here, the next car's coming out for Heat 3, so we're back to Ian in the commentary box.
Yeah, rain falling quite heavily again here at Silverstone as we look ahead to Heat 3 of the WHT Trophy, and you can see the cars are already on the green flag lap. Let's have a look at the grid then. Pole position, it's Michael Eastwell, I can tell you, and he is in a KMR Spectrum. He set the fastest time in qualifying, but then broke down before the end of the session, but it looks like he's back out there. Brandon McGorgan in the Oldfield Motorsport Van Diemen JL13 lines up alongside him on the front row of the grid. Row 2, we have on our screen something different to what I've got here. So we'll go off the screen. It's the 82 car of Ben Mitchell in third place. Besides him is the number 121 car of James Littlejohn. On the third row, that's where we find Jack Sullivan, the Team USA scholarship driver, and then the 117 car, which is Tom McCarthy, who no doubt lost one of his lap times due to a flag infringement or something in qualifying. Ayrton Houck, the second of the Ammonite Motorsport Team USA scholarship drivers, is there on the inside of row number 4. Then it's 96, Pascal Montbaron. And then on row 5, Isaac Canto de Silva on the inside, and he's in the Van Diemen LA10 ahead of Robert Volk, who's lost 7 places from his qualifying position because of lap times lost, so he's gone from 3rd down to 10th on the grid. Charlie Mann lines up on the inside of row 6 in the Ray, Bob Hawkins also in a Ray next to him. Then Klaus-Dieter Hackel on the 7th row of the grid next to Ben Tilley in the Van Diemen RF86. Then on row 8, Rick Morris, multiple podium finisher at the festival in the late 70s and early 80s, and Ian Schofield next to him. Then it's the car of Matthew Wrigley, who's been a winner in historic Formula Ford this season, and David Porter. On to row 10, that's where you find the 95 car of Steve Roberts. No, not the driver that's been successful in Porsches and Compact Cup and Formula Ford in the past. He had to post on social media to say, it's not me. The 141 car next to him is George Ditchfield in his Reynard. Then rounding out the grid, Jeremy Kane in the Lola, and the Swift Cooper Racing Run Nike of Alan Slater. So the car's already heading back onto the grid, and it looked like conditions were getting worse out there, Josh.
Yeah, it's starting to rain quite heavy towards the end of those last interviews. This is the grid. It's a little bit jumbled because there weren't many laps in the qualifying session. We heard from the Team USA scholars about how that session was very interrupted by safety car periods and yellow flags. So be interesting to see how this race progresses with that amended grid that we were just given. So much amended, it's not even on the official notice board at this point. So it's very busy in race control, which isn't really ideal how busy it is. But we've got some interesting racing, a good race we've just had in Heat 2. So look forward to how this goes with Michael Eastwell in his first race in the country, I think this year, possibly his first race at all. Yeah. They're on pole position with late entry Brandon McCorkin alongside.
Yeah, green flag waved at the back then. So 8 laps of racing ahead of us for the third heat of the Walt Hayes Trophy. On the right-hand side of the picture, it's Michael Eastwell. On the left, Brandon McCorkin. They're underway now for 8 laps of racing and heading off down towards Cops Corner for the first time. It's a good start by Eastwell. Looks like the McCorkin car is slotted in behind him in second place. As ever, there's a lot of spray for the drivers to deal with through the first few corners of this race while they're in such a big pack. McCorkin there coming out of the slipstream, and 1 or 2 others trying to challenge as well. Ben Mitchell, the blue car with the yellowy green nose cone on it, and that there is the James Littlejohn car, isn't it? Simon Hadfield Motorsport car in 4th position, the orange one. Yeah, that's right. James Littlejohn, don't think he's done huge amounts of Formula Ford racing in the past, but he's there in 4th position. He's racing sports cars predominantly in recent seasons, but it is Eastwell that leads. McCorkin there in 2nd position, who takes a slightly tighter approach to Brooklands, and Ben Mitchell in 3rd. They're going away from James Littlejohn, who's there in 4th spot. Then I think it's Jack Sullivan, the first of the USA scholarship drivers, in 5th, as the rest of the field work their way down to Brooklands in these treacherous conditions. You've got one of the Mygals out there in 6th position. I think that is Robert Volk, and if that is, he started 10th, so that's been a good opening lap from him after losing times in qualifying this morning. But across the line, the gap is 6/10 of a second between Michael Eastwell and Brandon McCorkin. Now a full second back to Ben Mitchell in 3rd. Yeah, on to lap 2 of the race, then half a second or so for Michael Eastwell, the wildlife photographer, who is in the lead of this race. Now just an occasional racer. He was regular with us a few years ago. He was 6th in the final in 2019, 2nd last year, 9th in 2018, 10th in 2017, so he has had a pretty good record here. Rick Morris has gained 3 positions on the opening lap, up to 12 positions, so he may be just about the oldest driver on the grid, but he's certainly not lacking anything. He wasn't feeling very well a couple of weeks ago at Brands Hatch. Hopefully he's feeling fully fit, and he'll be looking to make the final, I'm sure, in one of the oldest cars on the grid, the Royal RP29. For 6th position, we've got Robert Volk trying to get up the inside of Team USA scholarship driver Jack Sullivan. I think he's done it there, so a change for 5th place. there at Brooklands, down the inside into the left-hander, but you can see how much spray there is here for these drivers to contend with on the Wellington Straight. That is the 32 car. That's Isaac Canto de Silva, the 16-year-old, only turned 16 last month, so in his very first races in the UK in the last few weeks.
Yeah, possibly the youngest ever WHT Trophy competitor. He's been living with Brian O'Dolan over the last few months, so he's had plenty of laps in Formula 4, just not in race situations before this week, or a couple of weeks ago, and he's just ahead of Rick Morris. How different experiences in Formula 4 races can you get between those two drivers?
About 60 years between them, isn't there? So there is the 91 car going through.
Bob Hawkins going well, he's up in the 11th position.
Absolutely, in the TM Racing, Tom Margelson's team, going pretty well. Up in the semi-final spots, battling here with the younger driver, much younger driver than he is as well, Isaac Canto de Silva, the American.
Yeah.
Can't find a way past Bob Hawkins there as they turn their way through Beckett's and onto the Wellington Straight for the third time.
McCorkin's just at two best sectors of the race as he tries to go after Michael Eastwell in the lead. The gap currently 0.8 of a second between the two of them. They're pulling clear from the pack. Meanwhile, that battle continues for 11th position. Both qualifying spots at the moment for the semi-finals tomorrow. And Bob Hawkins is holding off Isaac Canto in the Team Dolan Van Diemen. There's Rick Morris in the Royale, a 5-time Formula Ford Festival podium finisher. Won so many races here at Silverstone in the 1980s when he won the SO Formula Ford Championship. And of course he famously beat Ayrton Senna, I think, which was here at Silverstone in the British Championship.
It was 4 decades or so ago. So we're on to lap 4 of this race. And challenge there for Bob Hawkins. It's De Silva, Canto de Silva, that's trying to get alongside him, but can't make that work. Just behind them, Rick Morris, as you were saying, and he's got about 0.4 of a second in hand over Ian Schofield, who's the driver, who's the first person to miss out on an automatic semi-final spot as things stand. Here is Isaac alongside Bob Hawkins, long-time champion of Brands Racer Bob, and he is going to lose out. Here is he to Isaac, around the outside he goes. Where's the most grip here? It looks like it's on the outside because he does sweep through into 11th place.
Yeah, that's right. Behind them, Andrew Schofield is catching Rick Morris. So Rick Morris may find himself in the last chance race tomorrow if he can't keep Schofield at bay. They've both got Ben Tilley trying to close them in as well. So a few of the older cars all finding themselves together as Michael Eastwell goes across the line to set a new fastest lap, a 1:12.360, extending his gap over Brandon McCorkin. So not so many battles at the front, so watching the battles in the mid-pack, including Andrew Schofield, who I think has been a big part of getting all the South Africans over this weekend. It's 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's trying to get into the semi-finals here, only just behind Rick Morris there. And that's the battle you can see on screen now. Just behind them, you've got Ben Tilley in the RF86. But let's go a little bit further up the order here. There's the Team USA scholarship driver, Jack Sullivan. He's got Tom MacArthur just behind him. Tom, who does a lot of driver coaching these days. Historic front runner in the past couple of seasons as well. He's running in 7th place at the moment and is a bit out of shape as he goes onto the brakes for Brooklands Corner, so can do nothing about Jack Sullivan there. He's the meat in the sandwich of the 2 Team USA scholarship drivers, because Ayrton Houck is just behind him as well, ahead of Charlie Mann and Pascal Montbaron, so it's quite a cosmopolitan field that we have here in semi-final 3 of the Walt Hayes Trophy.
James Littlejohn looks like he's being caught by Robert Volk. Then Jack Sullivan, Tom MacArthur and Ayrton Houck not that far behind. So this is the battle for 4th as we start lap 6. Meanwhile, Rick Morris has got himself ahead of Bob Hawkins and Andrew Schofield in the Reynard trying to come through. There's lots of these 89 Reynards in the entry this year. Andrew Schofield, one of them, and he's trying to draw himself up alongside Bob Hawkins and get into a semi-final qualifying position. So after making a good start to the race, Bob Hawkins starting to lose out because Ben Tilley joining in as well, the former Classic Formula 3 champion Ben Tilley. Can't get the better of them though at this stage, but Andrew Schofield now up into the top 13.
He is indeed, and looks like Ben Tilley getting involved here as well, going up to 14th past Bob Hawkins there at the at Copse Corner. Meanwhile, further back, that's Tom MacArthur getting himself ahead now of Jack Sullivan for 6th position. So the two Team USA scholarship drivers back together again, 7th and 8th. because Tom MacArthur has made up some ground. He started the race in 6th. He's back to 6th position now, just ahead of the 2 young Americans who we heard from between the 1st and 2nd heats of the weekend. There is the...
Huge slide for Tom MacArthur through Woodcote, a corner that's traditionally flat out in Formula Ford, but the conditions are treacherous today, so that's not the case. And a big slide he had going through Woodcote corner, the 6th place car, Tom MacArthur in the BM Racing Medina.
Meanwhile, Michael Eastwell's leading this race comfortably by the best part of 2 seconds at the moment. So we're watching this battle a bit further back. They go either side of not that Steve Roberts, and out of shape goes Tom MacArthur, goes very deep into the corner. That gives Robert Volk the opportunity to get back through on the inside, and he keeps hold of 5th position.
Yeah, Robert Volk, a 4-time champion in the South African Formula Ford Championship, also a touring car champion too. We just heard from Josh LaRue and his possible plans to move here, racing touring cars. Big slides from Brandon McCorkin as he laps the George Ditchfield Reynard around the outside at Luffield, and navigating these slower cars pretty tricky, because of course they're not really going to see you come in with the amount of spray that is being chucked up by these cars. You can't see much in the mirrors. And is this going to mean a battle who's developing up front? Not really. There's similar gaps between Eastwell, McCorkin and Mitchell. Really, they've probably had the loneliest of races, the top 3. Much more has been happening behind them.
Absolutely right, yes. Eastwell, McCorkin, Mitchell, and then it's about 3.5 seconds, or about 3 seconds back from Mitchell to Littlejohn. Ben Tilley now has got himself up into the semi-final spots in 13th position. But here is the race leader, Michael Eastwell, on his final lap of the race in that KMR Sport Spectrum. Kevin Mills also running cars in other championships this year.
I think Tom MacArthur's had a moment at Cox Corner because he's lost a number of positions. He was, 6th, and he's down to 8th now and lost about 4 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see that's updated on the screen. We have 3 splits here. Silverstone. Oh, and a problem for George Ditchfield there. He's had a spin as well. You can see how treacherous the conditions are. They're making their way through. The final corner then is the 92 car, and that is Michael Eastwell. It's been a dominant performance from Michael in this third of the semi-finals. He's up to the line now to take the checkered flag, and Michael Eastwell is that wins heat 3 from Brandon McCorkin in 2nd place. The gap 2.5 seconds in the end, and Ben Mitchell 3rd. But a bit further back, we've got drivers doing some lapping. So it's James Littlejohn 4th, Robert Volk 5th. Then the 2 Team USA scholarship drivers, Jack Sullivan ahead of Ayrton Hout, Tom MacArthur after that moment on the last lap 8th.
Here's the battle of the last qualifiers. You've got Rick Morris and Ben Tilley with Andrew Schofield, who may just miss out with Matt Wrigley's caught them too. So a good 4-car battle, all older cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there going to be any change through Woodcote Corner? It doesn't look like it. So it is going to be Rick Morris that takes 12th place. He wins his class. Ben Tilley's going to win his class. Both of them go straight through to the semi-finals. I'm sure we'll see them out towards the sharp end of their historic races later on. Andrew Schofield and Matthew Wrigley, the 2 drivers that just miss out there. Bob Hawkins in the end, only 16th after running well inside the qualifying spots earlier on. And then the rest of them, I think, at least 1 lap down. So let's have a look at the results of the 3rd heat of the Walter Hayes Trophy. And the win went the way of Michael Eastwell in the Spectrum 011C run by Kevin Mills Racing. He was 2.5 seconds clear of Ireland's Brandon McCorkin in the Van Diemen JL 13th Oldfield Motorsport. Ben Mitchell in the Wayne Paul Racing Van Diemen JL 16 was 3rd. The Simon Hadfield Motorsport Van Diemen RFO3 of James Littlejohn 4th, and the KMR Sport McGall SJ01 of Robert Volk 5th, with Jack Sullivan in 6th for Ammonite Motorsport Team USA Scholarship Ratio 18, just ahead of his teammate Ayrton Hout by about 1.5 seconds. Tom MacArthur was 8th after a moment in the final lap. Charlie Mann and Pascal Montbron rounded out the top 10, ahead of Isaac Canto de Silva and Rick Morris, who made his way into the semi-final spots, as did in 13th position Ben Tilley. 14th was Andrew Schofield, then Matthew Wrigley 15th, Bob Hawkins 16th, and Klaus Dietz Hackle, the last of the finishers on the lead lap, ahead of Jeremy Kane, David Porter, Alan Slater, Steve Roberts and George Ditchfield. So there's one more heat to go in the Walter Hayes Trophy. That's coming up very shortly, and a little bit later on we've got the pre-finals for the Janet CESAR and Carl Hamer trophies for the more historic cars. Before all of that though, we're going to go down to hear from our top 3 with Josh.
So we're down here after Heat 3. Race winner Michael Eastwell's got out of his car. He's been congratulated by Kevin Mills, the team boss of KMR Sport, who run these Spectrum cars. James Beckett's here to give the Heat 3 winners trophy to Michael Eastwell as well. So we'll let James do that, then we'll have a word with Michael, the race winner in Heat 3. So he receives his third Heat 3 winner from James. And Michael, a really good race. It looked fairly straightforward, but obviously these conditions it's never straightforward.
Yeah, it's a little tricky out there. Pretty wet, but yeah, just tried to keep it very clean between the white stuff, or the black stuff rather, and yeah, no, it was good. Good start to the weekend for us. So hopefully we can keep this up. But big thanks to the Kevin Mills Racing team as always.
And is this your first race since last year as well?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, came back here from Wednesday, but literally one whole year. So a little rusty, but getting back into it. So
doesn't show very much. These conditions, you say very tricky. Are you aquaplaning much out there?
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of aquaplaning. It's just knowing when to give it full boost, full power. You know. Yeah, just being a little bit reserved, but especially today, because the last thing you want to do is have a bad result today for tomorrow. So we started the weekend right, so happy days.
It's gone perfectly for you, really. So we front row start, hopefully a pole position.
Hey, hopefully that'd be nice. But yeah, look, as I say, like just to get a win today was really nice, and yeah, hopefully we can keep it up tomorrow. But we're in the right spot so far, so fingers crossed. And
always coming back with Kevin Mills and the Spectrum, which is a car you've had good success in the past.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this car. This is actually my car. Kev runs for me, and the guys always do an incredible job. So it's a pleasure to drive, and yeah, it's nice to bring this one home for the team. It's a good start to the weekend.
Is it a car that suits the Silverstone circuit? We've seen quite good success for the car around this layout.
Yeah, it's always run well here, but it's run very well at other tracks as well. But it is known for this circuit for sure. So hopefully we can do it justice tomorrow.
well done on your victory. Now we have a word with second place driver with Brandon. A good result there for you. Tricky time at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago, so this is a good start to the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Nice to get a solid result in the heats after the bad luck a couple of weeks ago at Brands Hatch. Yeah, happy enough. Michael got me at the start. Couldn't really see a whole lot with the spray, so just took it home.
And towards the end, you had a few slower cars, which you catch quite quickly in these conditions.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of times I just caught them at the wrong place, really. It just really opened the gap to Eastwell, but the car's back home in one piece. Good starting spot for tomorrow.
Yeah, car in one piece and a good starting spot. Perfect way, isn't it? Well done on second place to Brandon McCorkin. Then down here in third position, Ben. A third place, a good result for those conditions?
Yeah, very happy with that. Couldn't see a thing to start with off the beginning there, but saw James Littlejohn just going further back in the orange car. So it was a case of just keeping my nose clean, get through the back markers okay. Yeah. And we were catching up to them at the end there, but it's the case of, you put 1 foot wrong, even think about putting a foot wrong and you're in the gravel or off the track. So just getting through it was great there.
So I guess you have to approach them, assume they haven't seen you come in with all the spray.
Yeah, completely. And they hadn't a couple of times. So it was just trying to think for them, see what their next move's going to be and sort of predict that. But we got through okay. I'm very pleased with third for Wayne Paul Racing.
And in the previous heat, we saw quite a few cars off at Luffield. Is that a particularly tricky corner today?
It's always a tricky one in the wet because you're sort of trusting the grip at the very outside, but if you overcook it by a couple of miles an hour, you're in the gravel and you can't get back out of that one, so pleased to avoid that.
Anywhere else, particularly a place to watch out for?
Actually, Woodcote was really treacherous, especially as you're getting through traffic there. There's a lot of puddles there, and flat and forth through there is a bit sideways. Yeah.
So your brother's got an excuse then?
Yeah, we'll wind up about that later.
Well done on third place. So there's our top 3 from Heat 3. One more heat to go here at the WHT Trophy, and that's coming up next.
Yep, cars in the assembly area for Heat 4 of the Walter Hayes Trophy here at Silverstone. The umbrella's up, the rain still falling. It's not a particularly pleasant day. We are promised slightly better weather for tomorrow's action when we'll have the progression race, the last chance race, of course, then the semi-finals and the final. And in parallel, of course, there's the Janet CESAR competition and the Carl Hamer competition as well. The Janet CESAR award is for cars manufactured between 1982 and 1998. The Carl Hamer for cars that are pre-1981, ever since the inception of Formula 4 back in 1967. But we're going to be looking ahead to Heat 4 very shortly, and the cars that you can see on screen there, again, it's the cars that are on the second row of the grid. On the right-hand side of the picture there, you've got the Ray GR22 of number 52, Nolan Allaire, and he's in the Ammonite Motorsport Ray GR22. And next to him and closest to the camera is 171, which is Julian van der Watt, the 26-year-old, who has spent most of this year recovering from some quite serious injuries that he sustained in an accident in the early part of the season. Quite extensive injuries that he had, but he has now recovered from them sufficiently to take part in this year's WHT HEAT Trophy. We've just heard the whistle blowing in the background. We can see the umbrellas being put down because the cars are about to head out onto the circuit for this Heat 4 of the WHT HEAT Trophy, which will have Rory Smith on pole position and Chris Middlehurst beside him. So a pretty interesting looking front row of the grid for Heat 4 of the WHT HEAT Trophy. And I think several people down the pit lane thought, wow, this is the toughest heat of the lot. And maybe it is, but I'm sure there's plenty of space for all of the leading contenders to go through straight into the semi-finals. So have a look at how the grid's going to line up then. Pole position, it is going to be the number 45 car, which is Rory Smith in his Medina JL18. And he, of course, was the winner of the Formula Ford Festival just a couple of weeks ago. Chris Middlehurst in number 16 is going to be alongside him. He was 4th in the final in 2021. He was that was his best season in the WHT HEAT Trophy. Then on the second row, you've got the 52 car, that's Nolan Allaire in the Ammonite Motorsport Ray GR22, and Julian van der Watt in the KMR Sport Run Miguel SJ01. Lewis Fox is next in the Team Fox Racing Ray GR14. He was 17th in the 2021 final. And then Joey Foster, the only quadruple winner of the WHT HEAT Trophy. He won the event last year, but not on the road. He's having his first race since last year's WHT HEAT Trophy in the Furman RFR 20, car number 1, as he is the champion from last season. Ben Cox in the Ray GR10 is going to be on the inside of row 4, but he's going to be very pleased with that in the Sealy Motorsport Ray GR10 for the United Formula 4 Championship regular. Adam Higgins next to him in the Beastworks Van Diemen JL15, two-time Castle Combe Formula 4 champion. Then it's Adam Quatermain and Ryan Campbell. They're going to be on the 5th row of the grid. Adam Quatermain in the PWR1 run Van Diemen RF99 from a Ford MS regular, and Ryan Campbell, as I say, in the Reynard 89 FF, another of the drivers coming across from the other side of the Irish Sea. Tom Radburn on the inside of row 6 in the KMR the Echo Motorsport Spectrum, I should say. He's done a little bit of Formula Ford, but more karting, and he's next to Richard Tarling, very successful driver, including here at this meeting in the past in the Reynard 89 FF. Another Wayne Poole Racing driver, James Colburn, is on the inside of row number 7, head of classic Formula 4 frontrunner Joe Armand in his Royal RP26. Richard Higgins, who was a historic final winner at Brands Hatch at the festival meeting a couple of weeks ago, he lines up on the inside of row 8 next to Henry Campbell. Then it's Vincent Jay and Nathan Tupper on the 9th row, Leanne McShane and Ian Fernyhoe on the 10th row, and Dominic Mooney, and if he's there, the hawk of Ollie Plale on the 11th and final row of the grid. So, Heat 4 is shortly to get underway. Another 8 laps of racing in the WHT HEAT Trophy. And it's Roy Smith, winner of the festival. Does he start favourite for this race?
Well, his form has been pretty good, hasn't it? He won those Champion of Brands races when there was lots of competition, then he won, as you say, at the festival last or 2 weeks ago, and he was saying to me about how his starts miraculously at the end of this year have suddenly come really good, which he said traditionally haven't been, so we'll see if that works out this time. But he had that star in overtake when he passed Noel Murray into Paddock Hill Bend. Fantastic overtake. We heard from Jeremy Shaw at lunchtime how he thought that was one of the best festival finals, and he's seen a lot of them. So I thought it was pretty good, but he's seen a few more than me. So as he agrees, that certainly showed how good that race was and showed what the potential is, I think, for tomorrow and what we are in store for. But for now, Heat 4, he's on par with Chris Middlehurst alongside.
Yeah, Chris Middlehurst, always an interesting driver to watch as well. And he was certainly in the thick of the action at the festival too. Lights go out, the race gets underway then. Looks like a reasonable start from everybody as they head down towards Copse Corner. for the first time is the Medina of Rory Smith that has the lead. Chris Middlehurst second. It looked like Julian van der Watt was trying to come through into third position, but we've got drivers going around the outside that are a little bit out of shape there, but certainly it is the top two as they started.
Middlehurst had a big slide as he hit the brakes through Maggots down into Beckett's, but I think he'd survived. It's Joey Foster that's gone off through the puddle, so he's lost a couple of positions. So again, Joey Foster, like Michael Eastwell, hasn't raced, I don't think, this season, but his starts of the event's not gone particularly well, has it? Sixth and then a mistake at Beckett, so he's got progress to make.
He has indeed involved in running other cars as well with Don Hardman Automotive team as well. That, and of course, it was Don that's run him to those 4 Walt Hayes Trophy victories in the past, including the first of them 20 years ago on this equivalent weekend, the Walt Hayes Trophy weekend. There's Rory Smith though, leading the way then. Chris Middlehurst second, and Nolan Allaire in third position with a bit of a gap back to fourth position. That is still Julian van der Watt in McGill. He's had heat wins at the Walt Hayes Trophy in the past, including last year when he won the Barry Mason Trophy for winning Heat 1.
Yeah, he's probably, or he's one of the most experienced of the South African drivers here. He's done some racing in the States, in IMSA. But there's Chris Middlehurst in P2, chasing after Rory Smith. The two of them going away from Nolan Allaire, who's in third spot in the Ammonite car. The 20-year-old from Michigan in the States, but it is Rory Smith who leads the way from Chris Middlehurst. Middlehurst takes a slightly tighter line through Beckett. Lewis Fox is going really well, up in fifth spot. He qualified there and he's staying there on these early laps.
Absolutely right. Now he's going very well indeed. Ben Cox also qualified really well. And he in the Saudi Motorsport car is going well. Here are the two leaders then, up towards Brooklands for the second time. It's Rory Smith and Chris Middlehurst. Not really a dry enough line to make much of a move into Brooklands, is there?
Yeah, we heard from drivers earlier how difficult it is to overtake in these conditions. But we are seeing some close racing here in Heat 4. Richard Tarling had a good first lap. He started 12th, he's up to 9th. He had an off at Cox during qualifying and caused a stoppage, so perhaps qualified a bit further down the order than he would have liked, but he's gaining positions. The ex-Formula Palmer Audi champion. Down into Cox Corner come the leaders then, 0.3 of a second between Rory Smith and Chris Middlehurst. So this is different to Heat 3. This is more like the earlier heat where we had some really close racing at the front of the field. So are we going to see a challenge? The top 3 all in the 1 minute 12.8, so they're absolutely equal on pace. So Nolan Allaire sort of picked up his pace to go with the top 2 on that second lap of the race. But through sector 1, Joey Foster just sets the best sector of the race. So he's got himself ahead of Adam Higgins. He's back up into 6th spot and chasing after Lewis Fox in that border of spray somewhere.
Yeah, so BM Racing lead at the moment from Team Dolan in second place and Ammonite Motorsport in third position. That's how it is as far as the teams are concerned at the moment. BM Racing, who have been successful in recent seasons, and they've got Rory Smith doing a great job here. Chris Middlehurst second and Allaire in third. Gap back to fourth.
Joey Foster in 6th was challenging Lewis Fox there but couldn't get through, so they're still in the same order. But Joey Foster, who's got the pace after that mistake on the opening lap, they can see him right in the slipstream of Lewis Fox's Ray, and he pulls out of the tow Joey Foster, who sets the fastest lap in the meantime, and surely will go 5th into Copse.
Yeah, we'll see if we can pick them up down at Copse Corner. We're picking them up on the exit there. No, he's not gone 5th, has he? So it is still Lewis Fox that's ahead, as you say, going really well here. Foster having another go. The inside line for Magnus, that'll become the outside line for Beckett. He's already gone a little bit wide through the puddles here on the opening lap of the race, so trying to find grip there is Joey Foster. Can't find enough there to get past Lewis Fox, but he might find more on the exit, trying to get alongside the Blue Ray as they head up the Wellington Straight. Meanwhile, it's still Rory Smith leading, Chris Middlehurst second, Nolan Allaire third, and Julian van der Watt just a little bit on his own in fourth place as Foster has another go up the inside for Brooklands, and he's through into 5th place, this time ahead of Lewis Fox.
Yeah, so no, I think he feels like he needs to progress from here because it's not a great starting position for the semi-final row 5, so that's why he's looking to move forward. Yes, he's into a semi-final qualifying spot, but not a grid position that he would particularly enjoy. So he's got past Lewis Fox. Julian van der Watt is about second up the road, so can he close in on the Mygao? Driven by van der Watt, the gap 0.8 of a second. Foster half a second quicker through sector 3, setting the best third sector of the race. And actually, Van der Watt wasn't slow through that sector. He was quicker than the cars ahead. It's just that Joey Foster's so much quicker at this stage.
He is indeed. Foster, after that mistake, keen to make progress and get into the top 4, because all of these, it's an extra row forward on the grid for the semi-final, of course, so that's crucially important. He's not really dropping Lewis Fox, though, too much, though. Lewis going with him as best he can here. He's in 6th. Adam Higgins, the double Coombe champion, is a little bit further back in 7th place in the Beastworks car, which is a great name for a team. Heading up to the left-hand that goes in the background, it looks like Joe Foster was about to take 4th place away from Julian Van der Watt. We're following the first 3 cars through, in particular the car of Chris Middlehurst, and Joe Foster didn't make it. It is still Julian Van der Watt there in 4th position in the Megane, and he has the Cornishman, proud Cornishman, Joey Foster, right behind him in 5th.
Yeah, that's right. And then Lewis Fox still with them. Lewis Fox, I think, did finish 17th here last year, so perhaps we shouldn't be so surprised about his good run here. Middlehurst going after the leader, fractionally quicker, 0.6 of a second. The gap, the car into the pit lane was the Titan of Ian Fernie-Hope, who we just saw on the left-hand side of your screen there. So he's pulled out of the race. So we've got 20 cars left. We could Oliver Plale. I don't think he took part in qualifying. He hasn't taken part in this race either. Foster, though, still the quickest man as he challenges those. There's the top 3, though. Only 1.5 seconds between Smith, Middlehurst, and the Martini back, Nolan Aller, who's there in 3rd. Then for 4th position, Julian Van der Watt, still ahead of Joey Foster on lap 6 of 8.
Joe Foster certainly getting plenty of support on the YouTube screen. I think all of his fans have just tuned in because he's had 3 Go Joeys in quick succession, and he's still there in 5th at the moment. Julian Van der Watt not yet yielding that position. Foster, which way is he going to go? He's going to go up the inside into Luffield corner, but no way through there. And so Van der Watt holds on. We are coming towards the end of lap 6 of the race, so only 2 more laps to go. Very short, sharp heats these. Josh in the World Haze Trophy.
Interesting to have the Miguel of Robert Volk in the earlier heat and Julian Van der Watt. It's not a car we see race in the UK all that often, but Joey Foster seems to have the pace on Julian Van der Watt, but can't go through at this stage. There's Nolan Aller, who is closer to Chris Middlehurst than he was before. The 20-year-old Aller, who finished 6th in the National Championship this year, chasing after the more experienced Chris Middlehurst, but behind the even more experienced Joey Foster. Still can't find a way past Julian Van der Watt. What about down into Beckett's? Well, a slightly wider line used by Foster. I wonder if he's ruined that mistake on the opening lap where he lost a couple of positions, because it's much harder to regain them at this point.
I'm sure he is. He could have been certainly challenging for the podium positions had he not made that mistake. As it is, Rory Smith still leading. The gap between Middlehurst and Al has gone back out again, hasn't it? For 2nd and 3rd positions. As Foster up the inside, he's not going to make that work, is he, at Brooklands corner? Although Van der Watt does use quite a lot of the wetter part of the circuit there, still manages to get the car turned in ahead of Foster as we're about to go into the last lap.
The reason Allen's behind Middlehurst is because Middlehurst is just on the first 2 sectors fastest of all. So the gap, which at the start of the lap was 0.9 of a second between him and Rory Smith. They will complete the lap as they start the final lap. 0.8 apart. It's a slower last sector for Middlehurst. It did come down to 0.6, but Smith with a good gap, it would seem, as we head on to this last lap of the race.
And it's Van der Watt that's done the best lap of the race, a 1:11.8, in spite of the fact that he's trying to fend off Joey Foster. Foster giving him a really thorough workout. Sometimes you might think this might slow you up a little bit, but Van der Watt's still setting good lap times as he's trying to keep Joey Foster at bay. So Foster at the moment looking like he's going to be starting on row 5 of the grid for a semi-final. A couple more corners to try and change that. The Furman driver having his first race meeting in a year. Was yet unable to find a way past Julian Van der Watt, who's also not done much racing this year because of his injuries that he's recovered from. Meanwhile, there it is, Rory Smith, the festival winner, still leading from Chris Middlehurst in 2nd. Chris, who 10 years ago was the Bark Formula Renault champion. The gap has come down in this race, though. Could we have a late change? Chris Middlehurst having to work hard just to keep the car pointing in the right direction. I think Smith is just about going to hang on. Likewise, Van der Watt, I think, for 3rd place.
Yeah, that sort of had a collision further behind. That was
that was Tom Radburn and Nathan Tupper. That was for the final place in the semi-finals. And Radburn was the one that was going to go through. Checker flag has gone out though, and Rory Smith it is that wins then from Chris Middlehurst by 0.75 of a second. Nolan Aller was 3rd. Julian Van der Watt 4th with the best lap of the race on the final lap, and Joey Foster 5th.
And those 5 separated by 2.8 seconds, which I think is the smallest gap between that many cars after a full green flag race. So I think that theory of this being the most competitive heat has probably come true.
It was, and yeah, with Foster there having problems in the early stages of the well, he could have certainly been a potential winner of that race. But Lewis Fox, a bit of a surprise package. Adam Higgins got up to 7th place in the end. Ben Cox 8th, Richard Tolley 9th, Adam Quartermain rounding out the top 10. And the drivers that have sort of looked in, James Colburn is the driver that sort of managed to get himself through into the semi-finals directly after that late incident involving Tom Radburn and Nathan Tupper. Tupper has come through in 15th, but Tom Radburn yet to come through to take the checkered flag, I'm afraid. So he is going to be one for the progression race at first thing tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Yeah, he's out of the car and he's by the sides of the road. So that's a great shame for the relative newcomer. You can see the novice cross on the back of his car. The Echo Motorsport Prepared Spectrum. He will go into the progression race tomorrow. Rory Smith will go straight through to the semi-finals. Let's have a look at the results. So Smith it was that took the win in the Medina JL18 from, not as it says there, Ollie Player, but Chris Middlehurst who was 2nd, Nolan Aller who was 3rd, Julian van der Watt 4th, then Joey Foster was 5th, Lewis Fox 6th, and Adam Higgins, Ben Cox, Richard Tarling, Adam Quartermain, Joe Ahrens and Richard Higgins was 12th. 13th and the final car straight through to the semi-finals was James Colborne. 14th was Ryan Campbell, then Nathan Tupper after that tangle with Tom Radburn. He eventually came home in 15th position with Henry Campbell 16th, Liam McShane 17th, Vincent Jay 18th, Dominic Mooney 19th, Radburn a non-finisher in the end, and Ian Fernier home for the pit, so 19 finishers we had for the final of the heat. So that's it, we've seen all of the drivers in the main Walt Hayes Trophy competition now. They'll go through to the progression and last chance semi-final races tomorrow, but first let's hear from Josh.
So we're down here after the final heat on Saturday of the Walt Hayes Trophy. Lots of discussions going on over here between our top 3 drivers after that very close race. So I'll have a word with Rory Smith first, if that's okay. So Rory, a race win in tricky conditions. Chris Middlehurst was right there behind you all the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think, sorry to make it boring, but I think that was just quite like a easy, like mature race from the two of us at the front. I think we both knew that tomorrow is where the real action happens. So just trying to keep it within the white lines, which I've not got a great track record with here. So yeah, trying to keep it in the white lines, you know, just put in decent lap times and stay at the front. So I'm sure Chris was doing the same. Apparently the spray was pretty tough out there as well. So yeah, happy enough for tomorrow. I think the conditions might change a little bit, so we'll see what we get.
And keeping up these good starts that keep going on over the last few weeks.
Yeah, maybe that's just how it is now, but hopefully I don't jinx it for the next few races. But yeah, like you said, good start again. Got a little bit of a gap on the others into the first corner, which is always nice. Takes a bit of the pressure off, and especially here in the rain, that first corner can be super treacherous. So yeah, it's good to get a little bit of breathing space.
And now you say looks to be hopefully dry tomorrow. Is it like Brands, you didn't do any testing, or did you for this one?
No, I would have wanted to have tested for Brands, but I just couldn't. So we did Wednesday, Thursday this week, missed Friday, but I think Friday was a bit of a washout as well. So I don't think we really missed anything at all. Yeah. So we actually did have time to test the car. I think we've got it running really nicely, but you know, we've got the experience. We've done this loads of times before, so we knew the car would be decent enough.
And Medina, I don't think have had such a good track record here compared to Brands Hatch. Is that how the track suit things, or is that just how things have gone over the years?
Bit of both, I think. I think we've struggled with the setup in the rain here a little bit more than Brands. Brands are ballistic in the rain, but I think we're slowly getting back into it. I mean, like we're on pole today and won the race in the rain in arguably the toughest heat. So it's looking like we're getting there with it.
Yeah, I think the top 5 were separated by 2.5 seconds at the end. It's only the closest of the heats, and obviously with last year's winner Joey Foster was down there in 5th, so that sort of mixes things up for tomorrow a little bit.
Yeah, I mean you can never count out Joe. He's one of the best drivers, so I'm sure he'll come back into it, solve whatever problems he's got, and he'll be in the fight. So yeah, it should be exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Like you say, very different racing we expect out of tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, hopefully the final will be dry. I always enjoy it more when it's dry, and it's just a bit more exciting. So. Yeah, who knows? We haven't had any dry testing, so I don't really know who's quick in the dry. So we'll see. Should be good.
Well done. I think you're going to get your Heat 4 winners trophy from James Beckett. So Rory Smith, the winner of Heat 4. In second place was Chris Middlehurst. Chris, Rory was saying there that was just sort of keeping your nose clean, the two of you, the same point of view from you.
Yeah, sort of. Just you can't see where you're going, literally. I mean, you're sort of guessing really where you're going. The spray was that bad. So you're just trying to pick up your braking markers really, you know, on the sort of right or left hand side as the spray dissipates quite slowly really. So at some point you just kind of, not guessing, you know roughly where you are, but you can't quite nail it like you would do if obviously you're in the lead. So Rory's a little bit had a bit of advantage there, of course, knowing where he's going than us. No one, of course, is behind me with like a 2-car spray, so probably was worse for him as well. But at the speed there, definitely to try and challenge. But it's just, there's only really one line, you know, in the wet. You can try for different lines, but you end up getting, like, as you cross the rubber line, you get a big sort of swap on, and you get a bad run down the straight. So I sort of a bit of a sniff at the last sort of that layer at Brooklands, but I knew I wouldn't kind of make the move, but I thought I'd just give something a go at least to try and win. But yeah, obviously good result for the team, and you know, starting be second row tomorrow. So hopefully we'll see. Yeah.
In that race, I think those last couple of laps through the first half of the lap, I think you were quite a bit quicker than Rory. But like you say, that spray, as soon as you get too close, you can't really do anything about the lead.
Yeah, definitely had the pace on him for sure. But it's what you can kind of do with it in those conditions. You can't really just dive down the inside or take a different line, because there's only kind of really one line on the circuit, even though it's obviously all wet. You just got grip on one part. So in the early sessions they were kind of like cutting Beckett's, but it didn't really work for us. I think it was better to go in deep and cut back, and onto the straight there I was catching him a few times, but I just couldn't make a move. I wasn't side by side. I had to have lunged him, and in this early stage it was just, you know, pointless to lunge someone and risk crashing basically.
Is this one of the trickiest conditions that you think you've raced in a Formula Ford car?
Certainly, yeah. Sometimes the grease is a little bit slippier than the full wet. But yeah, the spray aspect of it, definitely, you know, you've got to have your sort of experience behind you really to be able to keep it, you know, on the circuit and keep putting in good times. I mean, you literally can't see where you're going. Obviously done a lot of laps around here over the year, so you get to know kind of like whereabouts you are, but yeah, it was quite tricky.
And Rory was saying there about the testing, no one's really had any dry running this week anyway, so how do you think that's going to go for you? I think you've done some racing here this year.
Yeah, we had the national round 4 weeks ago here, and we were really quick, me and my teammate Jordan, so I'd got all the onboard footage, got the data, you know, got the car set up, so I think we've got a very good shout tomorrow with it being dry. Whether it'll dry for the semis, I don't know. This track seems to take a long time to dry, but probably dry for the final, I would imagine, so yeah, we'll see what happens.
Should be a chaotic final, won't it? Second place for Chris, and then in third position was Nolan Allen. A pretty good result. No, I guess a similar situation for Chris. It's so hard to see where you're going when you're behind more than one car.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. I mean, they both ran perfect races. They didn't make a single mistake, never put a foot wrong. I mean, they're really, really good drivers in the wet. And obviously Rory Smith coming off of his festival win. So it's great to be anywhere near them. But as soon as you start to get into striking distance, get a little close, you just get blinded by the spray. So it was pretty hard to do anything.
And knowing the heat you were in, lots of quick drivers, a third position is a pretty good place to come out of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple names for this heat. Supposedly, it's one of the hardest ones. But when I saw the heat, I might have just, it was an exasperated sigh when it came out. But I'm thrilled to be third place, and I was happy with qualifying. And I think it puts us in a really good place for the rest of the weekend.
And I think you're sort of the top of the Ammonite Motorsport cars this weekend. So how's that sort of going with sort of new teammates over the last few weeks?
Oh, actually, it's kind of just like a FRP, Formula Race Promotions regroup. So I was obviously teammates with Hugh and Ayrton before, and they're both great guys, and Jack's a great guy, and I think it's going really well over there. And Ammonite puts together an incredible car, and they just run their whole operation really, really well. It's a great group of guys.
Obviously, you've been racing here all this season. What made you choose racing in Britain and Formula Ford 1600?
That's a great question. I think it's just a different style of racing. I mean, every part of it's different. We do the standing starts. The tires are completely different. We are finally now getting a little bit of rain this entire season. Not a single drop of rain in any official session.
Now it rains all the time.
Now it rains all the time. I don't mind, but no, I think it was just the logical step from the F1600 series over there to come and compete with the guys over here. And it's just a very different style, and I'm thrilled with all we've learned.
Any plans going forward to next year at this stage?
Well, we're working on a few things. Obviously, I'd love to continue driving in next year. We've got a few things in the works, but obviously, you know how the sport is. It's all about budget, and we're trying to work on some things to maybe make a step forward. But I'm very happy with what we've achieved this year.
And have you been living in the UK all year?
I have. I'm living in Brackley, so right down the street. So I get to go home tonight and take a shower in my shower and go sleep in my bed, which is an advantage, I would say. So
Absolutely. Well done on third place. Good luck tomorrow. So there's our top three from the fourth heat of the Water Haze Trophy. We've got a small break now, and then after that we'll be back in the assembly area as we look forward to the pre-finals for the two race for the older cars, the Janet Sahar Trophy first, then the Cole Harmer Trophy after that. So we're looking forward to the pre-finals here at the WHT HEAT Trophy. It will set the grid for the finals tomorrow for the races for the older cars. Later on we'll have the Cole Harmer Trophy for pre-1982 cars, but the cars lining up just behind us are for the Janet CESAR Trophy cars, for cars between 1992 and 1998. So the sort of core time of Kent Formula 4 1600 cars. You can see a number of them lining up on the grid, and one of the most famous liveries of the era was the Duckham's Van Diemen. I can see Dan Fox is over here. See if Dan, a quick chat. You've got sort of the most iconic Formula Ford in the past. Tell us a bit about the history of this car.
We think it's Magnussen's car from the festival in '92, but not 100% confirmed yet. But yeah, we've had it for a few years now.
But very tricky conditions today. So what was qualifying in your race like earlier on?
Well, I didn't do any testing. I just entered yesterday because we had the car available. I haven't driven for 3 or 4 years, so just a bit of fun. Busy running other cars, so yeah, just a day out.
I hope all goes well for you this race. So there's Dan Fox in the Van Diemen. Just alongside him we can see Neil Hunt, and Neil is in the Mondial, I think the only Mondial here, so we'll have a word with Neil if we can. Neil, in the Mondial, I think the only one here on the grid. Tell us a bit about the car.
Well, the car's got better history than I have. Yeah. This chassis is the one that was on pole for the 1992 Formula Ford Festival with Jonathan McGall driving it, who was a bit quicker than me.
And today the conditions pretty horrid out there. Tell us what it's been like for you so far.
It's just about drivable. It's very wet. Actually quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's just any worse and it'd be horrible. But it is extremely wet. Yeah.
And it's nice, we've got a nice lot of cars from the late 80s, early 90s on this grid to race against.
Yeah, there's a good mix of cars. There's perhaps not as many older ones as there's been in the past, but there is a good mix, a decent grid for both the older grids, so should be fun.
Best of luck. So there's Neil Hunt in the Mondial. So we make our way a little bit further forward on the grid as the cars make their way down here to the assembly area. We've got Richard Higgins, and if we jump in with Richard if we can. Richard, obviously you had a really successful time at Brantatch a few weeks ago, but very different conditions today.
Yeah, we struggled a little bit in the wet this morning. The new set of tyres on now, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it should be a little bit better. Conditions were terrible, but same for everyone, isn't it?
Do you think you can move forward during the course of this race?
We'll see. There's some good drivers in there, but, you know, I'll do my best. I'll try. Why not?
Best of luck with the race. So there's Richard Higgins, who is out there in the RF 91 Van Diemen. Now, a big part of the WHT HEAT Trophy, obviously, are our hard-working marshals in extremely difficult conditions. So we're going to see if we can have a quick word with one of them here, if possible. Keith, is it all right to have a quick chat? I was just saying the marshal's such an important part of this event, and it's not very nice to be out in it today.
Oh, no.
Tell us why you come. I guess you're a regular here at Silverstone.
I'm fairly regular. I've been coming for the last 12 years now.
Is this meeting one of your favourites?
It is one of my favourites. This, the Burkitt and the Pomeroy.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant races.
And is this something you like, being in the assembly area rather than being trackside?
Assembly area always gives you something to do. There's always activity rather than trackside. You have to wait for an incident to happen. So assembly, pit lane, absolutely fantastic.
And for people who are watching at home that would like to get involved in motorsport, can't afford to drive, would you say Marston's a great way to go?
Absolutely. Yeah, it fills the weekend up. It's a friendly bunch. Really enjoyable weekend.
Well, thanks for what you do and all your colleagues as well, and hope you have a good weekend. Hopefully it's dry tomorrow.
I hope so too. Thanks very much.
So thanks to Keith, one of the hard-working marshals. We made our way towards the front of the grid, and Callum Grant here alongside me. Callum, back in the Van Diemen this weekend, and qualifying wasn't an ideal session, I don't think, with all the wet conditions, but your heat went pretty well.
Yeah, qualifying was bad. Just didn't get a good lap, hence why I'm so far back. The heat was mega. Set off the line and shut my eyes through the first corner because I didn't know where anybody was, and came out fifth, and stayed there. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
And I think you're sort of in that spray everyone's been talking about, pretty nasty. You can't really see much in those conditions.
No, you can't see anything at all. You've got to focus on the rain light in front of you, and if that goes off, you're knackered.
And is this your prime focus to try and win this race tomorrow?
I'd like to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything stupid. My main aim is to get to the final. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But a win's a win. If it's, I'll take it any day of the week.
You've obviously driven quite a broad range of Formula Fords over the last few years. Tell us how they all sort of differ from one another.
Well, the historic cars, which I'm most familiar with, they're a lot softer, a lot more forgiving. Then you get the classic cars, which are the late 70s, early 80s. They're very much the same, but you can tweak them a little bit more. These are like a big jump. These are, you've got to treat them with care, otherwise they will try and put you in the gravel. And you get an A-class car, and they're like a samurai sword. You touch it, you get cut.
Well, I hope all goes well for you today, Callum. Hopefully see you after the race. So there's Callum Grant in the Van Diemen. More cars making their way just behind us. Let's see if we go back, because Richard Tarling, who should be a front runner in this, in a Reynard, a different car to usual. Richard, tell us a bit about the car you're borrowing this weekend.
Yes, Reynard 89 is owned by Martin Short. He's up in the BRDC at the moment.
Yeah, keeping dry.
Yeah, a little bit drier than me. I'm soaked through.
And have you driven this era of car very much?
Well, I've driven a few sort of pre-92, 93 cars, but not recently here.
Yeah. And tell us about what the conditions were like when you were out on your heat earlier.
I think our heat must have been the worst one because it started raining again. Yeah. There were puddles everywhere, aquaplaning, really difficult.
And you know this Janet CESAR trophy this year has got lots of top Formula 4 drivers, and you've got Callum who you raced against in the past, and quite a few other quick guys.
Yeah, there's loads of quick guys, so it's going to be tricky. But yeah, we'll be all right.
Best of luck. So there's Richard Tarling in one of the Reynards on the grid. So we'll make our way across to Ed Thurston, who is out in another of the Van Diemens this weekend. Hello Ed, how are you finding this car?
It's very different to anything I've ever driven. I sat in it for the first time in the workshop a couple of weeks ago, and now it's the first time driving it. Tested yesterday, didn't do too many laps, but yeah, we're getting on relatively well.
It's not the ideal day to have your first day in this car, is it?
No, it's a big learning day, and some of these guys have been driving these cars for a little while, so we're up against it. We've got some really good opposition, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes.
Do you think you can move forward, or are you just hoping to stay where you are?
I'd just like to stay where we are. The other tyres that you'll see the front three running on seem to be cutting through the wet a little bit better, so if it dries out we might have a shot. If not, they might go into the distance.
Okay, we'll watch out for that. Thanks for telling us about that. So Ed Thurston there in one of the Van Diemens. Just up in head of him is Alex Ames in a similar car. Alex, a long-time Formula Ford racer. So we have a word with Alex. Alex, back out in this car. Tell us a bit about it.
So this car, I've recently bought it, probably about a year ago, and it was, we put it back to its original livery. It was run by Marc Devellier at Spa in 1990, before he crashed his Van Diemen 89. So it did this one event in this livery, so it looked such a cool livery, we decided to put it back to that. But yeah, we were struggling. We've been here since Wednesday as well, trying to get the car to actually work in these conditions. It seems on these tyres compared to the 10s, they cut through the aquaplaning puddles a lot better than these ones. So hopefully it will be a bit drier now, and we can move forward a little bit further from where we are.
And this particular grid with the pre-93 car mainly, I guess, takes you back to the days of the Kent race about 15 years ago, where these types of cars were very much the ones to have.
Definitely, these are always the ones to have. The 90s, you know, the Neil Cunningham, the legend he was. You know, there's so many people that race these cars in period that were, you know, have gone so far. You know, David Coulthard and all of them. So it's just it's a brilliant series. The Super Series is fantastic. Hopefully, I'm going to go do some rounds next year. We'll see what we can do if work allows. So yeah, we'll go from there.
Well, hope all goes well. So there's Alex Ames there. So we've got two cars. Let's have just a quick look at the cars on the front row of the grid. As I think everybody here, we're looking forward to this batch. We've got two Swifts on the front row. We've got Sam Street here in 71, and then alongside him is James Tucker Tucker, who will be starting, I think, from pole position in this pre-final for the Janet CESAR Trophy. So we're looking forward to that. So I'm going to head back to the commentary box, but first we'll head over there to Ian Soman, who's awaiting this next race.
Thank you very much indeed, Josh. Yes, is that blue sky that we can see above Silverstone now? Yes, I think it might be. Conditions possibly starting to improve a little bit as we come towards the end of this first day's racing here at the WHT Trophy. And yes, the cars in the assembly area for the Janet CESAR Trophy. Now clearly someone's got a grid for this race, but I am not that person, because there's been nothing published on the official event notice board or on the timekeeper's website. So we can only go from what we could see in the assembly area there, and we could see in the assembly area that it was going to be Sam Street and James Tucker on the front row of the grid for this one. The Janet CESAR Memorial Trophy for cars built between 1982 and 1998. Janet was a former secretary of the Silverstone Racing Club. She sadly passed away in 2014, and she was a keen supporter of the WHT Trophy as well. Members of the Silverstone Racing Club wish to remember this by presenting a trophy annually in her name. And over the years, it's been won by Richard Tarling, who we heard from there. He won it in 2014, the first time it was contested. Then Ghislaine Jonathan won it in 2015. Tom MacArthur, we saw him out in one of the heats earlier on, won it in 2016. The Dutch airline pilot, Jaap Blijleven, won it in 2017. Callum Grant, we also heard from there. He won it twice in a row in 2018 and 2019. Then Blijleven won it again in 2020. Brandon McCorkin, 21. And James Clark, who we saw out in one of the heats in a more modern car, won it in 2022. And so we'll see who's going to add their name to the Janet CESAR Memorial Trophy in 2023. This is just the pre-final. It's going to be an 8-lap race, and this sets the grid for tomorrow's actual Janet CESAR Memorial Final, when the trophy will be awarded. And there'll be a similar format for the Carl Hamer Trophy, which is for the earlier cars from 1981 and back to the dawn of Formula Ford in 1967. So again, they'll have a pre-final today and a final tomorrow. And it's going to be an 8-lap race. As you can see, there is a bit of a dry line has developed now on the left-hand side of the circuit there, but on the middle of the track where the cars will be lining up, it is still distinctly damp. Of course, pole position here on the left-hand side of the circuit, right-hand side as you can see it on the live stream, and just as soon as the circuit is clear after the last track action, we'll have the cars released out onto the circuit for the Janet CESAR Memorial pre-final. And just having a quick refresh of our systems to see if we do yet have a grid for it. As I say, it clearly exists because they've got the cars in some kind of order down there in the assembly area, but not sadly for our eyes at this stage. Good to see people in the BRDC grandstand now soaking up a little bit of sunshine, dare I say it, down there. I think still some huddled at the back of the grandstand, probably there to keep out of the rain from the that we've had for much of the day so far here at Silverstone. So the Janet CESAR race is going to be a fascinating race because there's some decent drivers in it, and that front row, we didn't get a chance to talk to them before you had to come back here, Josh, but pretty strong front row of the grid there with James Tucker and Sam Street.
That's right, and two people with quite different experiences in Formula Ford 1600 racing. There is James Tucker, who went pretty well in his heat. But remember, Callum Grant got past him, and Callum Grant starts a little bit further back. But interesting what a couple of drivers were saying about the tyres, because you get the choice of tyres in this era. You can see there the AC B10s on these two cars, which don't have as many grooves. I presume they've got deeper grooves, and that's why they're better in the full wet conditions. And then some of the cars further back have got, I guess, a bit more like a cross-ply tyre, which, like Callum Grant has here, which have more grooves, but presumably not as deep.
Yeah, the two different types of tyre that can be used by the cars in this era, and that could well play a part, particularly as the circuit is now drying out as well. It might favour one of the tyres rather than the other.
Like you say, it's sunny, but over at Cops there's a huge black cloud. I'm not sure if that's where the weather's gone or whether we're going to get some more of that weather a little bit later on. There's Richard Tarling in the car, as he said, owned by Martin Short. I don't remember Martin Short ever racing Formula Fords, but he obviously owns his Reynard, which has allowed Richard Tarling to have a go in.
No, of course, he started out in 750 Motor Club kit cars, didn't he, back in the day, Martin Short, and done various things over the years since, up to and including Le Mans.
Yeah, and organised Peter Baldwin's memorial here at Silverstone last month, which Martin Short was telling me if it wasn't for Peter Baldwin, he probably wouldn't have ever got started racing. And Peter, obviously a BRDC member, and won so many races here at Silverstone like he did everywhere throughout the country.
Yeah, and at one stage in his career he won 5 championships in 6 years, didn't he?
That's right.
That was a debate Josh and I were having on Twitter the other day about drivers who won 5 championships in a row. Neil Hunt there, we had a chat with him, and the ex-Jonathan McGauley was saying one day on, wasn't he?
Interesting to hear the pedigree of some of these cars, which perhaps you don't realise from a distance, when the cars aren't necessarily in the livery which it ran in period. Good to have some historical cars, and like we say, somebody was saying maybe not the number of cars in this era we've had before, but I think probably the driver quality may be a little bit higher. We've got lots of potential winners on this grid.
Absolutely.
And some who are starting a little bit further down. Richard Tarding's on row 4, I think, so starting much further down. There's Klaus-Dieter Hackel, who's won the festival historic final in the past, and he's starting right near the back of the grid, so perhaps somebody who may move forwards. But as I say, this grid probably a fair bit more competitive. Richard Higgins, what's he on row 5, something like that? He won the heat at the Brian Jones Memorial Trophy a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, that's right, and he's been a regular at Castle Combe in particular. A little bit under the shadow of his brother Adam, perhaps. Down the years, Adam a 2-time champion at Castle Combe, and of course his father Bob, also a 4-time champion there. We do now have a grid, I am told, so let's take a look at that now. And this is a voyage into the unknown for all of us, because I've not seen this as yet. Pole position is going to be... There we go, Sam Street, yes, that's right, because he was on the left-hand side of the second. So Sam Street on pole position in the Swift Cooper Racing Swift SC92, and James Tucker, the Tucker Motorsport car, another SC92 next to him. And Alex Ames, who used to race a Swift back in his first flush of Formula Ford racing, now in this Van Diemen. He's on the inside of the second row of the grid in the SEMA racing car, ahead of the 199 car. That's Ryan Campbell's Reynard 89FF. Ed Thurston, who we heard from on the grid, he's on the inside of row 3 in the Neil Fowler run Van Diemen RF92, ahead of Callum Grant, who's certainly going to be one to watch, twice a winner of the Janet CESAR Trophy in the past. James Clark, last year's winner, lines up on the inside of row 4 alongside the 2014 winner Richard Tarling. Then it's Richard Higgins, the Brian Jones Memorial Trophy winner, on the inside of row 5, and Henry Campbell next to him. Neil Hunt in the Mondial is on row 6 next to Dan Fox. And then on row 7, it's the 193 car. That's Nathan Tupper, the Team Fox Racing Swift SC92, and Nigel Thompson, former North West front runner in the Chaser Technical Services Van Diemen RF88. Leanne McShane is in the Sully Motorsport Van Diemen RF88 on the inside of the 8th row of the grid, alongside Klaus-Dieter Hackel over from the continent in the Auto Hackel Motorsport Van Diemen RF88. Then it's the 100 car, that's Ben Tilley, the Van Diemen RF86, and the number 6 car, Andy Clark, in the Van Diemen RF95K. Andrew Schofield in 72 is on the inside of the 10th row, South African in the Kevin Mills Racing Reynard, and then it's Richard Frey next to him, a winner recently at Alton Park. Then it's the 114 car, which is that of Gerhard Hauschutter, and the Auto Hackel Motorsport RF87, David Porter next to him, the driver from Hinckley, ex-Road Saloon racer, and then Steve Roberts, not that one, number 95 at the back of the grid. So, yeah, lots and lots of quality on this grid for the Janet CESAR Memorial Trophy pre-final.
That's right, we've got the 2 Swifts, and then a whole load of Van Diemen with the Reynard amongst them, which is a good mix. And we've got the Mondial further back too, and as I sort of mentioned with Alex Ames there, I guess when you were very much in Formula Ford 1600, and these are the era of cars which were prominent 15 years ago.
Well, that's right, yes. I mean, of course, this era up to 1998, that included the end of the Kent era of Formula Ford in the early 1990s, which Jeremy Shaw was alluding to in your interview with him earlier on. So you see most of these cars are 1992 or prior. to that, 89 to 92 probably being the peak year. You've got some outliers like that Andy Clark, Van Diemen RF 95K. By then it was really a Z-Tech Formula Ford, and there weren't really any new Kent engine cars being built at that time, so it's relatively unusual to have a car from between 92 and 98 on the grid.
It's the only one this weekend. Good to have it here. But yeah, this is difficult to pick out who's going to go well. Potentially the left-hand side of the grid is the favourable one. So Sam Street just missed out on the Brian Jones Memorial Trophy 2 weeks ago. He will go from pole, where his competitor then back on 9th on the grid, Richard Higgins, who's got progress to make. But because of the qualifying system for this, it does mean the grid is a bit mixed up, because if you had a shortened session or a session with worse conditions, you might be starting a little bit further down the order. But this is what this pre-final is to do, really. Sort the grid out ready for the main final tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, so Sam, I think, was 9th in the Castle Combe Championship this year. I think 2nd in Class B as well, wasn't he? To Nathan Ward, who they had a really good fight during the course of this season. Nathan Ward's toughest workout in the Castle Combe Formula Ford Championship Class B for a few seasons. But James Tucker, who I think did one meeting possibly
this year. But he had been a winner in the Super Classic series. Yes. I think he's had 4 races and he's won 3 of them, so that would suggest
I think he was successful at Mallory, wasn't he? From memory. Green flag waved at the back. We're about to go racing then. Should be a very good race for the golden era of Formula Ford 1600s. It's the Janet Cesar Memorial Trophy pre-final. 8 laps of it, and it gets underway now. Good start there from pole position by the 71 car. Good start by Callum Grant as well from the 3rd row of the grid. So how are they going to be when they get down to the first corner? Well, it's not been a good start there from the pole position driver. He has dropped back down to at least 3rd position, and it's the driver through from the 2nd row of the grid that's not in the lead. It's James Tucker that's got it, as by the time we get to that camera shot, and it is the 29 car that is in 2nd position as they make their way down, and that's Alex Ames.
Yeah, right on the gearbox. The leader Tucker, then we got Street and Grant up next as the field turn their way through Beckett's, and there's some progress being made by Andrew Schofield, who's looking to progress, the South African, and Ben Tilley possibly trying to draw up alongside him, who would, I'm sure, like to be a bit further up the order than what he is. But Alex Ames round the outside into Brooklands to take the lead in what are probably better conditions than when we last saw Formula Ford race today.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Ames also a winner at Mallory Park this season, the Super Classic Formula Ford Championship. James Tucker was also a winner at that meeting as well. And it's a fantastic start. There's very different lines being taken by Ames and Tucker there. It's worked out better for Ames, I think. The yellow Van Diemen pulling further clear then of the Swift in 2nd place as they come through to complete lap 1 of the race. It's certainly Ames leading, and then it's everybody else trying to be 2nd at the moment. Tucker just about ahead. No, Street was ahead over the line. Then Tucker, Grant and Clark 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Tucker trying to go round the outside here to get 2nd place back from Sam Street there. Has he done it?
Well, he was not on the circuit particularly as he came out the corner, so he sort of put his hands up to apologise, but Sam Street was slow out the corner, so he had to stay ahead because Callum Grant is coming through, the this year's historic Formula Ford champion in a much older car. He's gone round the outside of Sam Street. That's James Clark who's joining in. James Clark started further back on the grid on 7th. So he's progressing as you might expect. He had to retire, I think, from his heat earlier, but it's Alex Ames that lead. This is shaping up to be the best race of the day, I think.
So far, certainly Richard Tarling not too far behind either, the 2014 winner of this race. Up towards Brooklands they come then for the 2nd time, and a spin for James Tucker. Well, that's going to set him back on the grid for the final tomorrow of the Janet Cesar Memorial Trophy. And off the circuit too goes Sam Street, so both of our front row starters off the circuit in the space of 2 corners. Can he get that car stopped before he finds the barrier? Just about. I mean, there's not much grip to be found on that grass, is there, Josh?
We've just found out how big the runoff areas are at Silverstone as well. When a Formula 1 car goes off, they find barriers pretty quickly, don't they? But these cars, not so much. But it's Alex Ames that leads by 6/10 of a second from Callum Grant, who's catching. It's just at the fastest lap of the race. James Clark is 3rd, so he's progressed well. And Richard Tarling, then Thurston, and then Richard Higgins is progressing. He's up to 6th. That's the 2 Swifts have both had those spins. James Tucker recovered in 8th, much further down the order for Sam Street. Here's Ed Thurston, who's lost out to Richard Tarling recently, so Tarling up to 4th. And Ed Thurston behind, and a gap back to Richard Higgins, and then James Tucker, who's just re-passed Ryan Campbell, who's been falling down the order a little bit during this race.
Okay, did Sam Street come through at the end of the lap at all? Did he manage to get back on the circuit? We'll keep an eye on him, as we've got then Alex Ames leading the way. Then did a lot of racing at Mallory Park in the Star of Mallory and Star of the Midlands Championship in the, I guess, late 90s it was that Alex was doing that when I was covering races at Mallory Park. And Callum Grant 2nd, James Clark third, last year's winner. Tarling in Thurston fourth and fifth, and Tucker in sixth. So he's trying to recover. He's got the Brands Hatch winner, Richard Higgins, just behind him, but Higgins seemingly unable to trouble the sort of leading positions here, Josh.
Yeah, it seems that way. Across the line they come. Interestingly, TSL has just recorded the car doing 22,000 miles per hour down the back straight. I suspect that may not be accurate. Meanwhile, James Clark has just set the fastest lap, a 1 minute 12.004. He's going after Grant and Ames. Is that gap now coming down possibly between the top two? So you've got the three Van Diemens out front, with Alex Ames leading. It's certainly a big gap back to Richard Tarling in fourth, who's not progressing, but actually coming under pressure from Ed Thurston.
You do well to get the car turned in from 22,000 miles an hour for the next quarter, wouldn't you? Anyway, Richard Tarling and Edward Thurston here in fourth and fifth. We're a little bit behind the first three, and we're nearly getting them side by side for the lead, but it's still Ames from Grant and Clark at the moment. Clark with the best lap of the race as things stand, but I suspect the lap times will continue to improve as this race goes on, with the sun now out and the circuit drying at Silverstone. Clark is getting some good track position there. He's getting better, closer to Grant, trying to go around the outside of him as Grant takes a tighter line on the corner, and Clark still there in third position. They're about 3 seconds clear of Richard Tarling in third place as they come through now to complete lap 4.
Yeah, Ames has got two champions from this year behind him. Callum Grant, this year's historic Formula Ford champion for the third time, and James Clark there, number 77, this year's Clubman's Class 1 champion, absolutely dominant in that category. He's there in third spot. Callum Grant has a big look in his mirror. Where's James Clark? Well, not alongside me, so I'll come alongside Alex Ames, but he can't quite make the better of the camel liveried leading car as they turn into Beckett's, all on differing lines, all giving each other enough space to work with too. They could be three abreast Ian as they go down the Wellington Straight.
They could be three pretty experienced drivers here. Ames, Grant and Clark heading down the Wellington Straight, up towards Brooklands they go, and it's Grant that's jinking left and right, trying to find a way past Alex Ames at the moment. Can't quite do it. Clark there in third. On the previous lap, Tucker got himself up into fourth position. He's up to fourth place now, I should say, and he might catch the leaders. We've got one car that's had a spin, but for the lead, they are overlapping now through Luffield's corner. And is Callum Grant going to get the lead away from Alex Ames? Not quite, as at this stage, with 3 laps to go at the end of this one.
It was Nathan Tupper who we saw, who spun with the novice cross on the back. He was in 10th. Another spin, this time for Dave Porter's Van Diemen up at Beckett. He was in something like 23rd position, but here are the leaders, separated by half a second. And James Tucker's just equalled James Clark's best lap to the 1,000th of a second, remarkably. 1 minute 11.724, which feels like the quickest lap we've had this weekend, or over the course of the day, I should say, as the track does dry out.
And importantly, it was 9 tenths faster than Clark on that lap. So the gap coming down. Sam Street's race going from bad to worse as he's off the circuit again, I think. And he got up to 17, Fadley, but he's been off the road again. So that's a great shame. He's going to have his work cut out in the final tomorrow, definitely now, because the car's come to a stop and he's going to have to get out of the car. So he'll be right at the back of the grid for the Janet CESAR final tomorrow.
That's right. This time into Brooklands, Alex Ames seems to have a slightly larger margin over Callum Grant compared to the previous lap. Obviously, this just does set the grid for the race for the race tomorrow. You don't need to risk a pass because you're only gaining one position on the grid in this, unlike the main Auto Straight where you're gaining a row for each position. There's 2 laps still to go though, so still time for Callum Grant to challenge. He appears to be running out of ideas though, because you've got this one line which is drier than the rest of the circuit. You go off that line and it's tricky to gain the position, but I'm sure he'll give it a good go. The 3-time historic Formula Ford champion Callum Grant, but they're all still being caught by James Tucker, who's still about a second a lap quicker than the rest.
He is indeed, but he's got a little bit of ground to make up still as Grant on the inside for Beckett's here to try and find a way past Alex Ames. The car's fully alongside, not too much between the wheels. If he's not careful, he's going to have James Clark on the inside of him again. We're going to have them 3 of them side by side down the Wellington Straight here on the left-hand side of your picture. It was Alex Ames. He's now moved across to the other side of the circuit. Does that leave the door open for Callum Grant to mount another attack? They're still in the same order, but they do now have James Tucker bearing down on them, admittedly, though, with only just over a lap to go.
Yeah, he's got good pace, which will bode well for tomorrow. He'll be regretting that spin, of course, he had at Brooklands. He may be quicker because he's 3 in front of battling so hard. James Clark looks to the outside of Callum Grant. Can't go through. Clark won this race a year ago, the Janet CESAR Memorial, the Janet CESAR Trophy, as they turn their way to complete lap 7. We've got 33,000 miles per hour now out of the Wellington Straight from Richard Higgins. He's got a good engine. Across the line they go then to start this last lap. Are we going to see Callum Grant make that challenge again that we saw a lap ago into Beckett? Will he be successful? Seemingly, we've got 4 for the lead now. Seemingly the tighter line to Beckett's maybe good into the corner, but not so good out of the corner. But he's going to go for it regardless. They're absolutely wheel to wheel. Callum Grant nosing ahead on the inside line, but the grippier outside line is Alex Ames. This time, though, James Clark has got through, and it's Alex Ames who's dropping back.
Yeah, so Alex Ames back to 3rd there, so it's Callum Grant that's taken the lead, but Ames back to the left-hand side of the circuit now. There's back marks and they're not quite going to come into play, though, before the end of this race. It is going to be Alex Ames on the inside line. Is it Callum Grant there? Is still alongside him. He's still got his nose in front. Ames has got one of those places back that he lost at Beckett's. James Tucker's still there in 4th place. Don't rule out a podium for him with a couple of corners to go. Around the right-hand Riddler field for the final time, though, it's going to be Callum Grant that I think is going to snatch victory. Alex Ames led for the vast majority of this race, but as they come up to take the checkered flag, it's going to be Callum Grant that takes the win then. Alex Ames 2nd, James Clark 3rd, James Tucker 4th. 1.5 seconds separating the 4 of them, I should say. Just half a second or 0.6 of a second separating the first 3. Ed Thurston was 5th, Richard Tarling 6th, Ryan Campbell 7th, Richard Higgins 8th, and then Ben Tilley and Andrew Schofield rounding out the top 10 to claim positions on the first 5 rows of the grid for the final tomorrow. But yep, that certainly was the best race of the day, wasn't it? And Callum Grant tried that move at Beckett's on the previous lap as well, didn't quite come off on that occasion, as we're watching battles still coming through here, including that involving Richard Frey for 15th position. I think Leanne McShane finished 14th, just losing out to Neil Hunt, I think. Oh no, she's just come through there, 16th, sorry, I beg your pardon, just behind Richard Frey. She lost a couple of places therefore on the last lap, looking at our timing screen. But yes, Callum Grant tried that move down at Beckett's on the previous lap, didn't quite work, then repeated it, just got his nose fractionally in front this time though at Beckett's, and as a result of that was able to take a win, which will put him on pole position for the Janet CESAR Memorial Final tomorrow. Let's take a look at the results of that race then. An 8-lapper it was, and it was won by Callum Grant in the Van Diemen RF91, the 143 car run by his dad, Nigel Grant Racing. Alex Ames in the Similar Racing Van Diemen RF90 was 2nd, and James Clark 3rd in the Enigma Motorsport Van Diemen RF90. James Tucker, a bit of a recovery drive after a spin at Brooklands. He came back to 4th position in the Tucker Motorsport Swift SC92F. Then Ed Thurston in the Neil Fowler Van Diemen RF92 was 5th, and Richard Tarling in the Martin Shorthair Reynard was 6th. And Ryan Campbell, Richard Higgins, Ben Tilley and Andrew Schofield rounded out the top 10 ahead of Nigel Thompson, Nathan Tupper, Neil Hunt with that only Mondial here this weekend, and Henry Campbell. For the back, Richard Frey got ahead of Leanne McShane on the final lap with the 2 German drivers, Klaus-Dieter Hackel and Gerhard Hausreuter, 17th and 18th. Dave Porter had a spin, but he was 19th of Andy Clark, Steve Roberts, but a race to forget for Sam Street. He headed in the gravel. We also lost Dan Fox in the Duckham Beveridge car during the course of that race. So one more Formula Ford race to come here this afternoon at Silverstone. That's going to be for the Carl Homer pre-final. We'll bring that to you very shortly, but first let's head down to Josh in the pit lane.
So we're down here after that pre-final for the Janet CESAR trophy race, and Callum Grant's already got his winner's trophy, so we're trying to jump in if we can. Well done, Callum. A really exciting race there, and after a couple of goes into Beckett, you finally got through.
Yeah, it was hard work. I just wanted to get onto Alex to get there, and I thought I'll have a do while we're there. Had a few goals, and I thought might just settle for 2nd. He made a mistake going into Cops. I thought, right, let's have a go. 3 wide coming down the straight. I thought this might not end well in the pre-final, but no. Just say hello to Joseph from Mirage. I know he's watching. Hi, pal.
And a couple of times you had James come alongside you. Did you sort of realise he was there? Because I know it's quite hard to see in the mirrors.
Yeah, I could see him everywhere, apart from coming out of Cops. You look in your right-hand mirror and the sun's on your mirrors and you can't see anything. So yeah, I was looking, thinking, I'm not moving over to the white line, because if I do and he's there, I'll push him off the track. But no, great race. That far away from each other and didn't touch, so fantastic.
So I guess although you haven't raced against these two guys that much, you're all quite experienced, you know, you're really fairly sensible, the three of you.
Yeah, well, we've all come up through historic racing, so we've all got respect for everybody. So, yeah, can't fault them. Let's hope for some more tomorrow.
And it shows that you can race really well in wet conditions, because that's certainly the best race of the day.
Yeah, hopefully. It'll probably be better than the final tomorrow, but yeah, we'll get there and we'll have a good race tomorrow.
And this car, you've not raced huge amounts like you were telling us earlier, but what's it like in those types of conditions?
We've been struggling in the last 3 days, to be honest. We've been chasing Alex, and today it's just come alive. I think we probably put a new set of tyres on. That made the big difference. But no, it's been a great car. Thanks to Roger Arnold for letting me use it all the time. All my sponsors for paying for us to be there. Ian from Orbital Fabrications paying for all the tyres. It's been a big family affair. It's been fantastic.
Well done, Callum. So Callum Grant, our race winner. In second place was Alex Ames, who's over here, so we'll have a word with Alex, who led so much of the race.
That was nearly, wasn't it? That was a nearly one. We really struggled with rear end grip, as you could probably see from the sideways everywhere. Certainly out of Cops, it just wouldn't pick up. Callum managed to get alongside me, and I was like, you know, it's just the pre-final. We don't need to make too many risks here. So yeah, happy with that. Maybe do some changes for tomorrow, but if it's going to be dry, well, it's a whole different ball game, isn't it? So, but yeah, happy with that. That's good.
Well done on second position. And quickly, before the next race starts, no, we haven't got time, unfortunately. So we're moving on with the programme. One more Formula Ford race to go, and that's coming up next.
Yeah, it's the pre-final now for the Carl Hamer Trophy, and as you can see, the cars are already out onto the circuit for their green flag lap ahead of their 8-lap race. Let's see how these guys are going to line up. Pole position has gone the way of Joe Ahrens in the number 51 car, the Enigma Motorsport Royal RP26, and besides him is the GT Motorsport Crossley 35F of Mike Gardner. Row 2 on the inside, you have the number 83 car, that's Sam Mitchell in the Wayne Poole Racing, Richard Hudson Evans Racing Merlin Mark 20, and next to him is 93, which is Jake Shortland in the Neil Fowler Motorsport Lola T440. On the third row of the grid, you've got Simon Hadfield in the Van Diemen RF81 and Mark McKenna in the GT Motorsport Crossley 35F. On row 4 of the grid, that's where you find Rick Morris, who went well in his heat earlier on, and then on Hardman Automotive Royal RP29, and also the 15 car, which is Matthew Wrigley's Merlin Mark 11A/20. On the 5th row of the grid, it's another Mitchell, Westy Mitchell, this time in the Merlin Mark 20, and 132 being the Dominic Mooney Jamin T2. On to row 6 of the grid, that is where we find Jack Butterworth in the Neil Fowler Motorsport Lola T100, and Jeremy Kane. He's in another Neil Fowler Motorsport Lola T100, so both of them together on the grid. Then you've got Peter Hannum in the TM Racing Nike Mark IV, and a pair of Nikes on the 7th row of the grid, because we also have the number 69, Alan Slater Swift Cooper run car. On row 8 of the grid, we have Colin Turner out in the Nigel Grant Racing Merlin Mark 20, making his return to competitive action in the Walt Hayes Trophy, and 86 should be the Ollie Pale Hawk, but we don't think that's going to be there, and also having withdrawn from the event, we believe, the 141 car as well. So a reasonable grid though that we have for this one, and a good racing prospect here, Josh, because Joe Ahrens, he's been winning races this season in the Classic Championship, and Mike Gardner, a Classic champion of the past.
That's right, and the conditions look a lot more raceable than we saw in the heats, and we just saw a great race, so hopefully we see a similar one here for the category of cars that the Historic Sports Car Club, who administrate this event, look after. So the Classic Formula Ford and the Historic Formula Fords all on this grid, and as you say, Joe Ahrens has been a winner in the Classic Championship this year. It's been getting quicker and quicker. I think run by Enigma Motorsports, Linton Stuntley's outfit, and alongside him Mike Gardner, who was the Classic Formula Ford champion but almost a full decade ago now. And then on the second row, Sam Mitchell, the 2013 historic champion in the Wayne Poole Merlin. And then Jake Shortland in the more unusual Lola T440 on the second row. Then Simon Hadfield, absolute expert historic race on row 3. Can he come through from there?
Green flag waved at the back then. 8 laps of racing for the pre-final for the Carl Hamer Trophy. Marshall's just jogging back to their positions. The 5-second board is shown, and we are about to go racing for the final time today in Formula Ford 1600 here at Silverstone. Lights go out, away they go, and even start from both of the drivers on the front row of the grid as they head down to Copse Corner for the first time. It is the 51 car that is going to be leading. That's Joe Ahrens then in the Enigma Motorsport car. Then it's Mike Gardner in second place. Looks like Sam Mitchell in third position. Actually quite a decent start that from Ahrens. He's got a few car lengths over Gardner here as they head down to the to Beckett's for the first time. You've got the 101 car, that's Simon Hadfield. He's up the inside of Sam Mitchell, is he? No, not quite. And Beckett's got a car a bit on the side on the exit. He might lose a place.
Yeah, I think he was looking to go down the inside of Sam Mitchell, then was running out of grip and was desperately trying not to run into him, and he managed that. But Joe Ahrens in the Royale, the only one on the grid, I think, leads the way with Mike Gardner in second. Big challenge up the inside from the Crosley there of Mark McKenna, and behind Rick Morris has spun into the side of Simon Hadfield, and that's caused Jake Shortland to go for a spin as well. So for Rick Morris, I think, has sort of triggered all that. He had a big slide and slid into the side of Simon Hadfield, who was one I expected to watch for success in this race. Well, he's not going to have much now. He's going to drop right to the back. But Joe Ahrens, showing how well he's come on over the last 12 months, leads the way by 9/10 of a second over Mike Gardner. And a good battle developing between Sam Mitchell and the Irishman Mark McKenna.
Yeah, it was another of the Royals that was the spinner there. Of course, Rick Morris in the RP29 and RP26 for Joe Ahrens, who leads this race by 9/10 of a second on lap 2. As Ollie Playle is in the race by the looks of it, so he has got started finally this weekend. He's running in 14th at the moment, but for the moment we're watching this battle for third position. Mark McKenna in the GT Motorsport Crosley and Sam Mitchell in the number 83 Merlin Mark 20 being run by Wayne Poole Racing.
Yeah, and joining them is Matt Wrigley, who's very experienced historic race driver nowadays, races Formula 1 and Formula 2 cars, but his roots was Formula Ford 1600, and he's challenging former champion Sam Mitchell down into Brooklands and goes through. Matt Wrigley, who's improved a lot over the last few years driving those different sorts of cars, seems to have really brought really lots of pace out of it. He's been very successful in those much more powerful cars. There he is, Matt Wrigley, number 15. In that Merlin Mark 1120, was second in the Carl Hamer Trophy last year, was third back in 2020 as well, so he's looking for more success here as he takes fourth position away from Sam Mitchell. But at the end of 2 laps, it is Wrigley that sets the fastest lap. He's over half a second faster than anybody else.
Yeah, that's right, as we are on to lap 3 of the race then. Sam Mitchell we can see in 5th position there now in the Merlin. Bit of a gap back then of about 6 seconds to Dominic Mooney, who is next up in the Jamin, and a spin for Westy Mitchell.
Yeah, rebuilt car for Westy Mitchell 18 months ago, had a big accident at Brands Hatch, so his first outing in this car since then. And he said it doesn't seem to be handling quite like how he would like, but he's one of the number of people who've got college students from the nearby area helping him out, so it's great to have so many students being able to help out with this race meeting.
Yeah, as up the inside of Mark McKenna, there goes Matthew Wrigley for third place. That will be side by side, a bit further back. That's Simon Hadfield recovering, and he has just got past Dominic Mooney there in the Jamin, hasn't he? So he's gone up into 6th position. Good battle further back, including in the midst of it, Rick Morris.
Yeah, after he was involved in that incident with Simon Hadfield, progressing not as quickly, and Jake Shortland was the other one, wasn't he? And he's involved in this battle in the Neil Fowler Lola. Ex-supercar competitor, Jake Shortland, has got there ahead of the Jeremy Kane Lola. Matt Wrigley sets another quickest lap, again half a second quicker than the leaders, so he's going after the newer cars of Mike Gardner and Joe Ahrens, who continues to lead after 3 laps. There's Rick Morris, who has progressed to 9th, gaining 4 positions on that lap, including Westy Mitchell, who we saw spin out, but he has continued in 14th.
A reminder that this sets the grid for the final tomorrow in the Carl Hamer Trophy. The race run in the name of the Crompton Parkinson marketing guru, that company long associated with Silverstone and Formula Ford 1600 during the 1970s and 1980s. So out of shape there was Mike Gardner in second place, and he is being caught now by Matthew Wrigley, who I think has won Formula Ford races this year.
Yeah, I think he won the opening round of the Historic Championship, but then Callum Grant did most of the winning since then. So he's probably quite glad that Callum's in a newer car and isn't involved in this race.
Yeah, Callum, I think 9-time winner this season, wasn't he? But here comes Joe Ahrens, who's had wins in the Classic Championship this year, to complete another lap, and is 1.7 seconds clear of Mike Gardner. But it is Wrigley that's the fastest man on the circuit, to 1:13.892, a good few tenths quicker than the two ahead of him that time.
You know, a full second quicker than Mike Gardner and 8 tenths quicker than Ahrens, and he's passed Gardner into Copse to go second. He's got a couple of seconds to catch the leader. He completes that move down into Beckett, but Jake Shortland behind, who was a spinner earlier, who's gone even faster. That's the Hawk, yeah, that's had a spin of Oliver Plale. The car, I think, driven by a different driver at Brands Hatch, didn't have a great time either, so that car in trouble. Ollie Plale, I think, was a former ASCAR champion.
He was, and single-seater race before that. I think did a bit of Formula Renault and that kind of thing in his younger days.
Mike Gardner braking extremely late into what may have been a yellow flag zone, and it was a yellow flag zone.
Yeah, and he found a bit of wet circuit as well, so hopefully everything, he's managed to keep it on the islands at least. He's still there in third place. That was 1.6 seconds between Ahrens and Wrigley. Has that come down on this lap? We'll get an update. It was 1.7 seconds, I think, at the start of the lap. Lap 5 about to be completed. It's now just over a second, isn't it? So it's come down by more than 6 tenths on that lap. So Matthew Wrigley, can't rule him out winning this race.
Yeah, and he's had lots of pace. He started back in 8th on the grid, so it's an excellent drive from Matt Wrigley. In what is one of the oldest cars on the grid, about 10 years older than the car he is chasing, the Royale RP26 of Joe Ahrens, up into Beckett's corner. And then a bit of oversteer there where Matt Wrigley is not. And there is the huge grey from Royston liveried car of Ollie Plale that's retired from the race.
There's yellow flags you can see at Brooklands, so no overtaking at this part of the circuit while the marshals are dealing with that recovery. But certainly I'd say that Wrigley is still closing the gap to Joe Ahrens, and could yet be a contender for victory here. He was second in the Carl Hamer Trophy last year. He was third in the Janet CESAR Trophy in 2020 as well, so no stranger to the podium here at Silverstone at the Walt Hayes Trophy meeting, isn't Matt Wrigley. And he has continued, I think, to close down on the 18th. Coming over the timing line now, and the gap is 9 tenths of a second, so it's gone down a bit more. A 1:13.812, the new best lap of the race, and a challenge on between the two GT Motorsport drivers as well, because Mark McKenna now up on the inside of Mike Gardner, and he goes third as Mike Gardner goes off the circuit and now spins.
That's right. From 360 finds probably second gear and continues on his way. Jake Shortland sets another fastest lap, 1:13.4. Very impressive stuff as Mike Gardner recovers behind Sam Mitchell. Mike Gardner, the double Classic Formula Ford champion. And leaders turn their way out of Beckett. The gap at the start of the lap started at 9 tenths. They will go through the beam at the end of sector 2 now, and we see the gap comes down to 7 tenths of a second. But it's through this final complex where Matt Wrigley has been much quicker than his competitors, and through Brooklands carries a lot more speed than Joe Ahrens. So we're going to have a one-lap dash here for the victory. Matt Wrigley only now really in a challenging position. He's got that 8th lap to try and get himself up ahead.
Yeah, gap down to 7 tenths at the last sector. They'll come up to the timing line and it'll be less than 7 tenths of a second now. There is the timing line at the back of the picture. Over it they now go, and the gap is less than 1/10 of a second. And Wrigley to the right-hand side, the inside line for Copse Corner of Joe Ahrens, and he has gone through. Can Ahrens get him on the cut back though and challenge back down towards Maggots and Beckett's? There is one of the back markers, but here are the two leaders, and they're side by side down into Maggots and Beckett's for the final time. Ahrens has got back through into the lead at Maggots.
That's right. We know Wrigley is good through Brooklands and Luffield, but can he find a way through? That's what we're about to find out. It's Colin Turner returning to the WHT HEAT Trophy, who's about to go, or he may not quite go a lap down. Then in the background, Mark McKenna. I think quite a bit of Formula Ford race in the late 90s. Is there in 3rd spot, but Matt Wrigley going for the lead. They might catch Turner into Luffield for the final time here.
Yep, they might well do. It's about half a car length between the two leaders. Which way are they going to go with this back marker ahead of them? Colin Turner keeping to their left, and it's still Ahrens ahead. We did very briefly have Matt Wrigley into the lead of the race at the start of the lap. Joe Ahrens got it back though at Magnussen. I think he's going to keep it because Matt Wrigley was having to work quite hard there to keep the car pointing in vaguely the right direction. Up to the line they come, and there is the checkered flag, and it is victory then for Joe Ahrens. He led over the line, I think every lap, didn't he? And he was 4/10 ahead of Matt Wrigley in the end. Mark McKenna, the Irish driver, was third. Westy Mitchell fourth.
Sam Mitchell.
Sam Mitchell, I should say. Mike Gardner fifth after that off that 360 spin at Cobb's Corner. Jake Shortland sixth, also recovering. He got ahead of Simon Hadfield in the end. Both of them involved in that same incident with Rick Morris, who was the next finisher in 8th place. Dominic Mooney was 9th. And I think in 10th place we should have Jeremy Kane. Yes, he's just coming across the line now, ahead of Jack Butterworth to complete the top 10. So that is the final Formula Ford 1600 action of the day, the pre-final for the Carl Hamer Memorial Trophy. The Carl Hamer Trophy. And we will see Joe Ahrens here on his slowing down lap, winning by 4/10 of a second. Let's get confirmation of that result. So it acknowledges the marshals on his way back to the pit lane. 8-lap race, and the race time was just under 10 minutes given in those conditions. So Joe Ahrens in the Royale, the winner, from Matt Wrigley in the Merlin in 2nd place. Then the Irish driver Mark McKenna, 3rd in the Crossley, making it 3 different chassis manufacturers in the first 3 places. Sam Mitchell it was that took 4th place, ahead of Mike Gardner after his spin at Cox. Jake Shortland was involved in an early incident with Simon Hadfield and Rick Morris. They finished 6th, 7th and 8th. Dominic Mooney, the long-time MG racer, was 9th in the Jamin, and the Lola of Jeremy Kane was 10th, ahead of Jack Butterworth, similar car. Alan Slater in the Nike, Westy Mitchell in the Merlin, and Peter Hannum in the Nike with 13th and 14th. Colin Turner was a lap down, and Ollie Pale was a non-finisher. So a reminder that tomorrow morning we've got action from the progression race at 9 o'clock. Ahead of the last chance race, semis and the final. That's all from me. I'll leave you in the capable hands of Josh Barrett to end the programme.
So we're down here in the pit lane after the final Formula Ford race today, and the race winner was Joe Ahrens. A really good drive there, Joe, but Matt was catching you quickly towards the end.
Yes, yeah, I didn't want to push it too hard and fire myself off, so I was taking it quite nice and easy, and once he got up to me, I put on a last burst of speed to just about keep him behind me, but he was coming hard.
He got you into Cops, so you seem to have the exit there to get back ahead.
Yeah, he just about got the run on me in the slipstream down the start-finish straight, and I just about got the cut back.
And then you had one car to lap at the end, and I think it was the last section where Matt had traditionally been quicker, but did you manage to use that to your advantage, or you, as you say, picked up a bit of speed?
Luckily, they put blue flags out, and he very kindly moved out of the way, to be fair to him, so we didn't get too much trouble, but yeah, good race.
And for yourself, it's been it's a continuation of what's been a pretty good season.
Yes, yeah, we've been fast all season. We've been struggling with mechanical problems, had several engine failures that denied us the championship win. But yeah, no, I'm feeling good and the car's going well.
Tell us a bit about the car. Do you know the history of it at all?
It's a Royale RP26, so it's a 1979 car. I'm afraid I don't know who owned it back in the day. Probably nobody famous, but yeah, it's still here today, so it stayed out of too many walls at least.
It's quite remarkable how many of these older cars, like in the season, there's loads of the 70s and cars out there racing, aren't there?
Yes, yeah, there's loads of them. They're good bits of kit, and they're fairly bulletproof for their age, and they're not, as you've seen today, they're not that much slower than the modern cars, so yeah, they're still racing, still good grids.
Well, best of luck tomorrow in the race for the main race and in this one. In second place was Matt Wrigley, so we will try and jump in with Matt if possible. Matt, second place ever. You were flying, I think, half a second quicker every lap, but couldn't quite get past Joe correctly on the last lap.
Yeah, I went up the inside into Cops it was, and I couldn't quite make it stick. And then afterwards I was going down the Hanger Straight, and there's a back marker, and I sort of keep the nose clean and make sure we're good for tomorrow, and starting from 8th, it made it hard work for myself really.
And in those conditions, we're now a bit better than what it was earlier. Had really good pace. Is that conditions you like, or are you looking forward to some dry racing tomorrow?
No, I'd rather it like that, to be fair. For my car, it's better suited. And this morning didn't have the didn't feel right in qualifying, so I made hard work of that. Then the heats felt better in the race, and then so we just kept exactly the same setups. The track looks awful still, and the car felt great, and yeah, I really enjoyed driving it.
And you've also driven quite a lot of different cars the last few years, but you enjoy coming back to the Merlin?
Yeah, I mean, I still race it as probably as much as ever, and we're looking to get it fully rebuilt this year and do probably more again than ever next year. Just love driving it, love the competitiveness, and if you can't win the Formula Ford race, you can't win them much, I don't think, really.
But you're going to give it a good go tomorrow, I'm sure, to win this race?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like it to be wet again, but I think it's going to be dry, but we'll see. But I'll certainly be giving it a go, that's for sure.
And it's quite, it looks on the pictures, a lot smaller car than most of the other things you're racing against. Do you feel like that when you're out there?
Yeah, sometimes you're down the back straight, you've got the modern cars, it feels sort of like a two-storey car compared to this. You see, it feels like sitting on the floor, but it is what it is. And I've done this event for so many years, and I come back every year. It's sort of glutton for punishment, really, when you're sitting there in your motorhome, it's raining all morning, you think, oh my God, what am I doing here? But it's great fun and a good way to end the day.
Well done on your second position. So there was Matt Wrigley. Then in third position was Mark McKenna, who's over here. Third position, Mark, and good pace towards the end there, starting to close them in again.
Delighted, yeah, third. So we've another go tomorrow, so great event and enjoying it, yeah.
And you got involved in a battle with Mike and managed to get past him?
Yeah, I think he went wide, did he?
Yeah, I think he had a spin afterwards.
Did he have a spin? Oh, but yeah, enjoyed the race. It was brilliant, it was great. Yeah.
Tell us about how much racing you've done in Formula Ford.
I would have raced Formula Ford in the 90s, so I would have done the British Championship in the 90s and stuff like that. Late 90s, 98, 97. So I bought the car off Mike, so came back for a bit of fun.
Tell us about any of your good memories from the late 90s.
I would have been on the podium here in a British round in 98, so 8th in the festival that time. So yeah, all good memories.
That was against Jenson Button, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he would have won that time, yeah.
What happened to him?
I think he made a good name for himself, that guy, yeah.
Well, and how are you enjoying racing against the modern cars as well as doing this race against more similar machinery?
Yeah, some of the young drivers now are fantastic, and young Jason Smith there winning his heat today, like they're really on it. They're driving well, and so the modern car is a lot stiffer, and these are just a bit more fun and a bit more relaxed, so it suits the likes of us guys nowadays.
And nicely, it's not quite as wet as it was earlier.
Thankfully, it was dangerous this morning now, it really was. Too much spray. But yeah, loving it.
Well, glad to hear it. Well done on your third position. So that is our top three from our final Formula Ford race of the day here at Silverstone. But we'll be back tomorrow just before 9 o'clock. We have the progression and the last chance race in the morning before the two semi-finals, and then the afternoon the three main races. The cars we've just seen, the Cole Harmer Trophy, the Janet CESAR Trophy, they both have their main final, as well as the WHT Trophy. So keep tuned to Alpha Live for tomorrow. Hit the remind me button, and that will hopefully alert you for our 8:55 start for the morning. So from me and Simon, from myself, Joshua Bart, we'll speak to you then.